Okay, so I am here with Joe Virus, one of actually probably one of the first people I followed when I got on Twitch. I think when I had him on my list, it was I maybe 10 people total. Now it's 60, 70, 80. I don't know how many. So Joe, welcome to what I'm now going to call engaging conversations.
Thanks for having me.
It's just been a long time, long overdue for me to get around to finally interviewing you.
I remember when you were first talking about doing this,
Yeah.
I misunderstood what you were trying to tell me about it.
Yeah.
I thought you were trying to get me to do like that on my channel, like where I talk to people on my channel. And I'm like, I want a DJ, man. But
Right.
I didn't realize you were talking about what you were going to do with your channel.
Yeah. Yeah. So, oh my God, hold on just a second. This always happens. I have a reminder on my my Echo device to take my medications.
Oh.
And I'm always seem to be in the middle of an interview when the reminder comes on.
Very important.
Yeah. Anyway, so if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about who Joe Virus is.
That's a hard one. Because I could talk about myself all night, and then I get, oh, dude, you're such an ego head, No, I'm a DJ, a musician, VJ, pseudo graphic artist. Anything you put in front of me, I'll work it out and figure out how to use it, whatever it is, whether it's to make music or to make art. I even tried screen printing, but all my inks went bad in the summer heat here in Texas. Oh, I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I was the resident DJ at the church in Dallas, which is the goth night at the Lizard Lounge for the past 22 years till COVID happened. And I went back finally last week for the first time. And in 14 months since I'd been there. I have a lot of bands.
Location, right?
It's what?
A new location now?
Yeah. It'll Do Club in Dallas, 4322 Elm Street. And it's a smaller venue. Like the church before used to be like a dinner theater. It was beautiful. Chandelier, 2 stories, like a 3-story roof in the main room where a big chandelier hung. And they had a drop ceiling that was a very ornate ceiling tile thing going on. Sadly, we lost the lease over COVID because it was like $30,000 a month to keep that place.
Wow. Yeah.
And we couldn't afford it without it being open, so lost the lease. And they had already bought It'll Do. The owner already bought It'll Do, and now they do the church there. They've been open since September though. So they found a way of like working the system in their favor by adding a food truck outside. They can be open as a restaurant / bar.
I see.
And at a minimal capacity, but now they're at full capacity. Masks are now what do you call it? Optional. Yeah.
Wow.
So luckily around the DJ booth, there's a big, huge. I keep looking over here instead of over here where the camera is. So and I Zoom every night I'm on, so you'd think I'd know better.
But well, you're moving around from camera to camera, talking to like 3 different groups.
So they have a plexiglass around my DJ booth there. So, and nobody's allowed in the booth except me, and the plexiglass goes all the way up to the ceiling. Well, there's a gap where the air intake sucks the air out of the DJ booth and spits it out at everybody.
Oh, okay.
Or I think it takes it outside. I think it's an exhaust. But it's a nice place. When I first saw it, I thought it looked like a roller skating rink because it was just a dance floor. But I realized it's just like a dance hall. It's definitely a dance club. Not so much a place where you can have events. There's no stage, so I can't book bands there, which sucks because that's what I love doing. Man. That thinking about that made me upset because I can't book anything.
You can always build like some kind of portable stage or something.
Yeah, the parking lot's big, but we're in the middle of a neighborhood, so we can't do outside.
No, I mean like you could probably just build something that you can,
it's a small room. I don't think it would work.
Okay.
I don't think it would work. And with the way that they're working right now,
yeah,
the cover is so cheap there, if not free, that renting a PA system to put in there for bands, sound guy, all that stuff, plus a stage, and then the bands that are usually $1,500 to $2,000 that want to play there, you know, that starts adding up to like what we can't afford to do. And it's hard because Texas is really weird when it comes to shows, but I can get into that a little later if you want.
Oh, you can get into that now while we're talking about it. Yeah.
Okay. So booking bands, I've been booking bands here in the Dallas area since 1994. And in 97, I got my first like regular gig where I could book whatever I wanted. I had a guy named Randy, who was the actual booking agent for the club. And it was the Impala in Fort Worth. And my friend Kelly Parker, rest in peace. Kelly Parker owned it. And he had built he had this amazing venue. It had a front room that had a little stage, like a foot off the ground. And it was like the length of the front wall of the place, which was really cool. So smaller bands could play out there. And we thought the whole goth thing was going to be super small there. And this is 1997. So he thought everything was going to be super small. So we would book everything in the front room. And then when he saw that it went from 5 people on a Wednesday night to like almost 300 people on a Wednesday night in Fort Worth, he's like, okay, we have to open up the back room. So Randy would do all the paperwork and stuff for the bands. Kelly would be the one finding, you know, the talent and stuff, and Randy did too. And they would come to me and say, hey, have you ever heard this band? And I'd be like, no, don't book them. Or yes, book that. And then it was my job to promote it. So Randy would do all the paperwork. But we had like, man, we had bands that are pretty controversial these days play there. And I didn't understand why there were certain crowds that would show up to some of the shows. And it was kind of a thing for a while there. But that
was the 90s, right? You know,
it was the 90s. The cancel culture didn't exist.
We didn't have Facebook and all that, and
there was no internet. The internet looked like paper. I mean, it looked like it was just words, you know. You could go to Skinny Puppy's page and it was like Skinny Puppy. It might have like a little I don't even know what it was called. Was it a bitmap? I don't even remember what the little pictures were.
The images. Oh yeah, bitmaps.
Yeah, a little bitmap with the SP logo, maybe that's like moving, like spinning around like this, you know.
Right. It looked like a little bit like this background, right?
It looked like that background a lot. And then it would just be like bio, and it would talk about the band, but words, you know, no pictures. And then you click the next page and it was more words.
Right. You can create a website. You can learn how to program a website by learning, like, I don't know, 10 or 20 pieces of code, you know, HTML.
And see, I didn't know that. I didn't realize, because I was not a computer guy back then. I was the anti-computer guy back then. When I made music, my studio was all just MIDI keyboards and MIDI drum machines, all MIDI together, daisy chain. MIDI is the language that they all speak. So, yeah, when I'll tell you a fast story about MIDI. When I was 12 years old, I think I was 12, I got a Yamaha PSR series keyboard, which is like, I call it a department store keyboard. It's got speakers on it. It's got like 147 sounds, and wow, this is so cool. My mom worked at Macy's, and their electronics department had it in there. And she's like, oh, Joe loves synthesizers, so let's get Joe a synthesizer. So I got this synth, and on the back it had this what I thought was M1D1 and in and out. And my friend got a drum machine for Christmas, and his dad, he had a guitar amp, so he could plug it into his guitar amp with the output. But then we looked at it, I took my keyboard to his house, and his dad was a musician, had studio gear in the basement. We weren't allowed to touch it. But so of course that means we're going to go down and touch it. Yeah. So we go downstairs, and I'm like, we were talking about the keyboards. He was showing me his drum machine. I was showing him my keyboard, and he's like, maybe if we plug this M1D1 cable in to my output to your input on the keyboard, maybe we'll get my sounds will come through. And I'm like, yeah, it's probably like a European audio cable. That's probably what that is. European or Japanese audio cable, M1D1. So we plugged the out of his drum machine, thinking that we're going to hear drum sounds come out. Plugged it to the MIDI in of my keyboard, and hit play on his drum machine, and it started hitting random notes on our synth, and we're like, "What is that? What is going on?" And man, it was over when we figured out that you could change his dad showed us how to change the control numbers on the drum machine so that it could spit out proper notes, and we could map it out on the drum machine. All of a sudden we had bass lines. And so he would play, half of the drum pads were going to be for drums and half of them were going to be for bass lines. I took that idea and brought it with all my drum machines and started, doing that at home, and got my first RX-11 Yamaha drum machine to go with my Yamaha keyboard. It was like 80, 87, 88, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And it mind blown. And so I was always the anti-computer guy. So I never learned code. I never learned, I still don't know how to promote my band on online. MySpace was so cool because we could have a MySpace page and put some music there and put pictures, and that was really cool because it was a very easy user interface.
Yeah.
And the early days of Facebook, I could be Joe Virus on Facebook and not have to go by my birth name, which is a dead name to me, but people use it all the time, and I'm like, oh, whatever, man, yeah. I Facebook was cool at one point, and it was easy to get like 500 people invited to check out your new song.
Yeah.
And now it's like nobody sees anything you post.
Well, I mean, a lot of people do use it, and I got encouraged to use it because a lot of the people I interview say they use Facebook to promote their shows, and they're like, can you create an event so I can share it? So I created the Dave Skywalker page, which was really easy to do. And I run everything off of that.
And I did that as well for the Solemn Assembly and Robot Seppuku Christ. All my bands have their own their own Facebook page, and I would make events for it. But it got to a point where I would be like told, you can only invite 50 people to this event now because you've invited way too many people. It'll put limits on you randomly, and I don't understand why. Maybe somebody knows the algorithm of why it does that or how to avoid getting that. Whenever I do a club night for the church, I can still do 500 people. I can still invite, but whenever I'm doing like a thing for any of my bands, I seem to get like a 50-person cutoff. Plus, with the algorithms and stuff that they're using now, which I don't understand the word algorithm, I'll throw it out there a lot because that's the word I hear thrown around a lot. But it's for some reason people are just not seeing my posts. So I don't know what I did wrong. Probably I think a lot of it changed when it went from Joe Virus to my birth name, that a lot of people just didn't catch that it was still me. A lot of people didn't know it was me. Like, who's this Mexican guy online right now? And I'm like, but,
well, that's one thing that's nice about this is that when this is airing, hopefully there will be some people here that know a little bit about it, and they'll be typing it up in chat and have a conversation while that's going on.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. So if you know about how to get better promotion on Facebook, tell us.
Yeah, let me know. Let us both know, because I could use it big time right now.
I don't have a problem inviting. I always worry about being too spammy.
I did get that. One of my bartenders from the club like blocked me because every week I had a new event up, and he had moved to like Colorado or somewhere, some of the state, and he's like, I'm not even in the state anymore. I did get threatened with legal action by somebody for harassment because I blocked them off of my page, and they still were getting notifications. And every time that I go on, I'm like, you got to unfollow me. Unfollow me. You won't get shit from me anymore.
Right.
And they were like, whatever. They never responded when I told them how to do it. But I didn't block them because I need to keep that conversation there, because they made some pretty bold threats, and but all legal stuff, not like taking you out back or anything, but still, you never know with people these days.
Yeah. So we're actually pretty well into interview, and I haven't asked you my standard opening question, which is, and that's fine. What does music mean to you?
Oh boy. Wow, that's an emotional question. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't think I'd get emotional if you asked
Yeah.
me a question about music, man.
It means a lot.
Yeah. Um, it's let me compose myself to answer
Yeah,
that,
no problem.
because
Well, after you tell us, what you think, I'll tell you with the conclusion that I've come up with over my many interviews, and your R2 Devo will appreciate it.
there he is.
Yeah.
Music was my friend when I didn't have friends. Songs became, and yeah, songs became my friend.
Yeah.
And there's songs in my, like, what I call the soundtrack to my life,
Yeah.
that were there forever.
Yeah.
And they're still there.
And you did a show on that, right?
Yeah,
Where
I
you
think
played,
so. I think
yeah.
I probably played all of them,
Yeah.
or a lot of them. Maybe not all of them. Whenever I drive the Wasteland weekend, I have a 24-hour playlist that is for the drive, and it's all those songs.
Yeah.
And it's just so that I'm surrounded in the middle of nowhere. Even, I mean, and I usually have somebody with me. I haven't gone by myself, but it's so that that I'm surrounded by things that have always been there for me. Like, people come and go, and people die, and people, and you end up hating some people and fighting with some people, breaking up with people, but songs never leave you. Some of those memories that are attached to some of those songs might be a little too hard to handle sometimes. Like Time After Time, I can't listen to by Cyndi Lauper, because my mom, that was her favorite song, and I remember her learning to play it on guitar.
Wow.
And so anytime I hear that, I have to leave the room or turn the channel, or turn off the radio, whatever it is. Sirius XM, because I listen to that when I'm driving sometimes, not like an ad or anything for them, but because they could play a lot less Elvis Costello, and I would be very happy. But music has been like my backbone, my spine. It's been my source of food on my table. It's been my lifeline. I don't think I'd be here if it wasn't for music. At a certain point in my life, I was never totally suicidal. I don't know if that's a subject we could talk about on here or not, but
yeah, sure.
I was never like truly suicidal, but there were times where it was like I felt down and out, that nothing was there that I could do to get out of my situation, except maybe that. And then when I came to that conclusion, the perfect song came on at that moment. It's almost like it knows. Like, music is its own living, breathing thing that knows.
Yeah.
And it's almost omnipotent, something like that.
Omnipotent is all knowing. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it knows what's going on in your head right when you need it. Kind of like if you've ever seen Better Off Dead, which is one of my favorite 80s movies. As soon as he gets dumped by Beth, every song on the radio is a breakup song.
Yeah.
It might be the wrong mood you want, but but yeah. So music is my life. It's all I know, and it's my one true love, my first true love, my first true passion. And I think that I don't think I'm a good musician at all. I can't read music for the life of me. I can't, and I'm not a really good player, but like, I have nerve damage in my left arm, so playing with my left hand is kind of goofy.
Yeah.
So I'm not a good player, but I can put stuff together that I think comes out really, really good. to me at least. And I'm making
yeah.
music for me to like, because at a point in my life, there was a time where I wasn't hearing anything that I liked.
Mm.
All the music started sounding exactly the same. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
want to do something different so that I don't sound like, you know, I'm not hearing the music I want to hear right now, without going back to the old music that I've been listening to forever. So I started making music to fill in that gap that was there. But yeah, I'm sorry it took a long time to answer that question. But yeah, music is everything to me.
Yeah,
it was definitely definitely the thing that kept me going.
you'll hear that in a lot of the interviews. You know, the music is everything, and music is life, and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of really good answers to it, and so I told you I was going to tell you what my conclusion was from all these interviews, is that music is the force.
Truly, yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, you were talking about how it flows through you, and it
totally.
all that, and it gives you life, right?
It's all knowing, and it's like
yeah,
yeah,
it's there. It's in everything, right? So yeah, music is the force.
Imagine if Star Wars had like a soundtrack with bands, you know, like what would Luke Skywalker be cruising around in his land speeder jamming out to, right? You know, that's the kind of what would, like, you know, he'd use R2D2 to, like, you know, project some Devo videos or something, or, you know, if it was my story.
Yeah. Well, knowing Mark Hamill, it would be something very ironic.
Star Wars, R2D2, a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's the only. I used to be a Star Wars fan. Now I'm just an R2D2 fan. Well, I was just an R2D2 fan for a while, and then the new Star Wars movies came out and brought me back into the fold. So yeah, back into the Mandalorian. Holy crap! Everything I wanted, the Star Wars movie and a TV show.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. I was really excited when the new movies were coming out, and growing up, I always said that Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, looked like my dad. And now that I'm grown up, I look like my dad. And so I'm like, I'm going to cosplay Luke Skywalker. Now he's going to be in the new films. But, you know, before that first one, The Force Awakens, they were not revealing any pictures of him.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was searching, and eventually in August, a picture showed up on the internet. Somebody snapped a picture of him, and he's kind of like, what are you doing? You know, but you see his costume, right? And so that was 1 week before Dragon Con. So I put together as close of something that I could to that. So I say I am the first person to ever cosplay Luke.
The new Luke Skywalker.
Yes. Because I mean, I don't know who could possibly have done it sooner, right? I mean, it was nothing very accurate whatsoever, but
that's pretty awesome.
Good enough. But then I go to Dragon Con, and I'm really excited, and then I realize, wait a minute, I don't want to spoil it for people. So I'm realizing I can't tell people who I am.
But see, that could have been like your you know, what is that word I'm looking for? Oh man, that you could have one-upped everybody with that. Like, this is what new Skywalker is going to look like. Yeah, whatever, dude. Okay, and then they go to the movies, and you're like, oh man, hey, Skywalker guy was right.
Oh well, I mean, the next year that I went, everybody had seen it, and then everybody could see the resemblance. So when I'm in costume, I mean, my beard is a lot longer now, but I grew out my beard, I grew my hair out, and I look a lot like him. I had people say, you know, they were doing double takes. You know, they'll come up to me and like, wait, oh, you're not him, right? Yeah. So,
God, like, man, he reminds me of somebody else in that movie in the first one where we meet up with him on that island, and I can't remember who he reminds me of, but definitely not like a Jedi master. Like, you know, oh man, I can't even think of who it was that he reminded me of. But I was like, I can't look, I can't watch this.
Oh yeah, when that was coming on, when we went to go see it for the first time, I remember
Eddie
my
Izzard,
legs
I'm
were
sorry,
like going
Eddie
like
Izzard.
this. Huh?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt,
No,
but Eddie Izzard is who he reminded me of.
wow.
Yeah, but who were you? What were you saying?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I knew what was finally coming up, that was going to be where they show Luke Skywalker, and I was like in my chair doing this, like, can't wait. I was like a little kid.
So I mean, I'm going to give some spoilers here. In the episode where we see Chewbacca get loaded up into this carrier, into this prison ship, and then that prison ship gets destroyed.
Oh yeah.
I yelled, "Fuck!" in the theater with all these kids around. Because I'm like, you can't kill Chewbacca. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, I was so wrapped in the movie, like it pulled me back in like a little kid, that I was in it.
Yeah.
And I saw that thing go, and I'm like, no, fuck! It was just the loudest, and I'm like, sorry. And I see it again. Yeah. My wife.
I'm sure you're not the only one. I know I did that in my head.
I have no filter, and it's a bad thing. Man.
So
Embarrassing.
You talked about bands, and I know you have Solemn Assembly, and you've mentioned a couple of others, but what are they? What were your other bands?
Let me get my list. Seriously, it's a lot, and they're all basically, I just write music. Yeah. And I'll write a song, and I'm like, oh man, this is a great song, but it doesn't sound anything like what's going on the Solemn Assembly album. Let's create a new band name for this. If it doesn't sound like anything else that I've done in the past, I come up with a new name. And so I've got my big.
Sounds like Al Jorgensen.
It's a little like Al Jorgensen, Kevin Key, kind of, as even Bill Lieb. I'll show you my skinny puppy collection here in a second. But you've got Solemn Assembly's been my mainstay since 1989. In 87 or 88, I started a band called Vampire Cathedral. And Vampire Cathedral was all noise. It was just because that's all I could do, because I didn't have good equipment. So it wasn't meant to be noise so much, but it came out noise. I was just learning that, if you put distortion on drums, it sounds like this. And, so it was like distortion pedals with cheap drum machines. And then I got a sampler in like 89, a good sampler, an Akai sampler, a really good Akai sampler. Bass model Akai sampler, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm there, and I'm like, ooh, I'm making real music. This is real. I can sample any sound I want and play it out melodically. So Solemn Assembly started in 89, kind of in the back seat of a huge car. My girlfriend went to a Methodist church, and they had a lock-in one night, and she invited me. And I'm not a religious person, but I had a girlfriend that was into her church. So I met this guy named Andy, and my buddy Andy Baker. I met him, and he was dating my friend Tanya. And I'm like, okay, cool. We know each other. I know him through her now. So this cool guy. Well, we were stuck in the back seat of this car, like smushed together. His girlfriend on one end, my girlfriend on the other. And he and I are both like in the middle of together. We're like two guys in the center of this big back seat.
4 of you in the back seat?
The 4 of us were in the back seat. On the way to this, there was a field trip from the church in Arlington, Texas, all the way down to like Glen Rose, Texas, which is 40 minutes away. So it was a long trip to be sitting with this guy, and it was because they were doing because it was a church. there's a performance of I guess Jesus Christ the musical or something, and it's in this on the top of this mountain plateau, carved into the mountain. They have this like amphitheater, and there's an actual river that flows in front of the stage. So when like Jesus is getting baptized and all that kind of stuff,
sounds cool.
You know, it's happening in the water right there, and there's animals like real like zoo animal type animals, exotic animals that are there on stage. You've got camels, and I think there's even like lions and stuff. I could be wrong. There might have been some risk involved with this show, but I don't. I don't remember if there was lions, but I remember there was all these like
no rad scorpions. So.
No rad scorps, luckily. I mean, they were actually, you know what though? When you look over, like we're watching the performance, we were actually making out with our girlfriends in the stand is what was going on. But and you know, to be fair, they were making out with us too. So it was like, you know, just to be proper. But if you looked at the stage and then you turned and looked kind of almost behind you to the left, you could see the Comanche Peak nuclear power plant glowing right there. Like we were, you know, you could throw rocks and not hit it, but you can imagine you could hit it because it looked like, you know, just two humps in we call them the boobs of Texas, and just the power plant, and it was there, and you can see that. So the rad scorps were over there, so they weren't on the stage, but yeah, we went to that, and on the way there, we were talking about how, you know, what bands do you like, dude? Oh well, you know, I'm into Skinny Puppy. What are you into? Oh, I like Thrill Kill Cult. And they're like, oh, really? Yeah. Do you like Front 2 for 2? I love Front 2 for 2. Oh my God, dude, how did we not? Whoa, where do you go to school? I'm in Sam Houston. Where are you? South Grand Prairie or whatever. You know, and we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And boom, instant friends. And you know, music. It was like the Force. You know, music like got us together. And on the way back, we like, let's start a band. And he's like, okay, yeah. What do you play? And I forgot what he played. And I played, you know, tried to play keyboards and drum machines. So he would come over and bring his stuff, and I'd bring my stuff down to the garage, and we'd like, we're gonna practice, Mom, you know, and just plugging guitar amps to everything, and just sit there for hours looking at the gear, like, what do we do? You know, yeah. I'm like, well, you know, I've got this drum pattern from this thing I did with Vampire Cathedral. And we played that. The first song we did was a cover of Mickey by Tony Basil.
Oh, yeah.
And I found the cassette that it was recorded on, and sadly, I recorded some dance mix over half of the song. So you get the beginning of the song, and then it cuts off like to some radio show that I recorded, like a DJ radio gig thing. And but I found that, so I'm gonna put that up somewhere. I don't know where, maybe SoundCloud.
Yeah,
so
like
people can like.
The one song I ever had recorded, piece of music that I ever recorded, I still had that on tape, and so I got that.
Played that. Yeah. I've heard it.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's like I mean, it's like Test Department ish, Neubauten ish.
Yeah, well, it's definitely
really cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I was playing bass, and it was the bass line was definitely based on. I don't remember which song, but it was something off of Collapse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Or maybe not Collapse, but it was definitely early. It was one of those just slow, dark, methodic kind of sounding.
Oh, it's a good song. It's a good track.
Yeah.
I thought it was really
so
cool.
basically, my purpose was to
no
try to keep time, which I couldn't really do.
I still
at the end, it's like speeding up because I got tired. I was like, let's get
I still have to go in and fix all my stuff. Like if I'm singing, I usually have to go in and cut my vocals and like shift it over just like a hair just to make it fit. And if I'm recording someone else doing vocals for me, like with one of my bands, I'm going to list the bands here in a second, but I have to take her voice, and every syllable I have to chop up and time it, because she has no timing when it comes to like live when we're on stage. All of a sudden it's there, and it's awesome and amazing and powerful. But in the studio, it was off by a lot, and I had to go in and fix everything. Now I think we're going to work on some new stuff. I think she's learned to do it herself. Like she recorded a lot of the vocals herself in her house. And sent them to me, and I was able to mix stuff in, and it's a lot better than it was at first. She's amazing. She's an amazing vocalist. And that's for Robot Seppuku Crisis. So the car trip, the road trip to that Jesus play was Solemn Assembly's
origin story.
Yeah. And then Robot Seppuku Crisis is me and Amber DeVille, who's a fetish model / horror model. She did a lot of stuff for Texas Frightmare Weekend. She would do, I think she hosted some videos for them. Texas Frightmare Weekend, yeah. And she was also a bartender at the church. And one day I'm walking by and I heard the most shrieky horror film scream I'd ever heard in person. And I looked over and it was her behind the bar. She was just showing off her scream to somebody. And I'm like, can you do that again? And she did it again. I'm like, can I get you to sing in my band? I mean, we were already friends. We were already friends from the scene for a long time. And she's like, yeah, that'd be fun. And I had a dream about her, that she and I were superheroes, spandex and all, jumping from building to building, you know, saving lives and doing all this crazy shit as superheroes. And I told her about it. And that actually ended up being like our album cover for Robot Seppuku Crisis, was us as like these militant superheroes, you know, fighting off the robot demons.
Did you actually get in the costumes, or was that just all drawn?
Oh no, Simon Paul, who does a lot of Kevin Key Skinny Puppy work, or work he did the artwork for this album for us. Now that the whole idea behind Robot Seppuku Crisis started out when Kevin Key called me to like, hey Joe, I want to bring my friends from Japan over and play some shows in the States. Would you be interested in booking them at the church? Because he'd played at the church a few times by then. And I'm like, hell yeah, dude. Who are you talking about? Uteroza? Please say Uteroza. So, you know, and sure enough, it was Utero Triple Z Triple A. And it was also going to be Kokoshibyo Guillotine. They were going to be there, but they had this, they opened up a new bar. So he had to be there to work his new bar. So he couldn't be there. But 444 Capsule showed up, came with them. And after this tour, they put out that electro punk CD. And it was amazing.
I'm not familiar with them, so.
Oh man, it's Japanese experimental. It's like breakcore mixed with industrial, mixed with noise.
Sounds cool.
It's like if Atari Teenage Riot was Japanese, like and like gave zero fucks about sampling anybody and using their stuff anywhere. Like Utero takes Skinny Puppy songs and smashes the shit out of them into like a million pieces, and then you hear Neubauten beats coming out in the background. Is it Yugang? I can't remember. Like he takes that beat and puts it with and makes a breakcore track out of it, and is screaming in Japanese like a real shrill, high pitched, very thin, distorted, and he does it all on an SP404 EX, I think, sampling little pad thing. And anyway, so Kevin said, hey, would you be, and I'm like, I already fell in love with Kevin. Posted like a video and of them when they were visited Japan, and that's one of the people who played with him. And I was already like, yes, I want to know all this stuff. So I found him online, and we became friends online. And then Kevin said, hey, I want to book this. I'm like, yes, let's do it. And I didn't care how much it was going to cost. My friend helped me pay for it. And we brought him to the church. They only played 3 shows in the States. I think one is LA, one in San Francisco, and one in Dallas at the church.
Wow.
So like it was a very exclusive show. And the Dallas show, Solemn Assembly opened up, or not Solemn Assembly, Robot Seppuku Crisis opened. But this is after I found out about Utero, Triple Z Triple A, and 444 Capsule. I'm like, man, I want to do this. I want to make music like this. I want to just break apart shit and make it, you know, the rowdiest, craziest party on a record ever. And I started writing all this stuff, and then I'm like, I need samples. I'm going to sample all my old Japanese live action tokusatsu man-sized monster, you know, Red Baron, Iron King, Dynaman, Spectre Man, Ultraman, Tetsuo the Iron Man, even, you know, like I sampled all these things. Like I watched it, and I know that like the what do you call it, the subtitles in English are usually incorrect on what they're really saying, but it kind of gets the gist of what they're trying to say. So I would sample what I wanted to say with the song, and I would incorporate it into the track. And like there's one part where the beat is like it's a and it breaks down to like a stop all of a sudden, and then this guy in Japanese is shouting, you can hurt somebody stopping so soon or suddenly like that, or you shouldn't stop so suddenly like that, or something like that. But it's in Japanese, so nobody here would know what it is, you know, unless you read Japanese. But it goes with the song and like all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna sample a lot of Godzilla and Mothra, and then we did a song called "Word to Your Mothra," and then so I started working on this whole album, and I had like 15 tracks done. Some of these are 30-second songs, like just punk in and out, you know. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, I got all the music done, and I'm like, okay, I got to write lyrics for some of this stuff because I think some of this deserves lyrics. And I'm like, but I don't want to write anything political. And I'm like, because that's what Atari Teenage Riot does, and they're good at it. And I'm not. When I get into politics, I get mad and too easily, and then I'll just like blow up on stage and never go back. You know? So I decided, you know, this album should have a story, and let's just say that I'm a tourist in Japan, and for the first time ever in Japan, and I'm doing all the cool stuff, going to all the little shops, buying all my stuff, going to the funny restaurants. Next day, I wake up, and it's in the middle of the final battle for Earth. All the earthbound monsters like the Mothras and Godzillas are rising up to fight this alien robot invasion that is coming to take over the Earth. And you're like trapped. You're in Tokyo, and you're like, oh, you know, buildings are falling down left and right. Godzilla's throwing all these robots into the buildings, you know, to kill them, but it's killing us too. We got to get the fuck out, you know. And so I started writing this out and making lyrics for all this stuff. We have like songs like Revolt, Let's Go, Word to Your Mothra, Monster Robot Annihilation, Atari Punks Fuck Off. That was kind of like a funny jab at Atari Teenage Riot. Because I believe me, I'm not ever like talking shit about them because I love what they do, but like it just sounded funny, and I'm like, okay, we can do it. Plus Atari, to me, Atari was always a Japanese thing. Because of Blade Runner, there's always that Atari sign, you know, and I know that's LA, but it looks like Tokyo so much, and like that has that whole multinational, you know, what is that? I forgot what they call it in Neuromancer. The Zaibatsus, the multinational Japanese-run companies that you know, most of them were based in Japan, and now they're here. You know, it's the sprawl basically. Right. Yeah. William Gibson. Sorry. So and Philip K. Dick, all those guys. Anyway, so I wrote this story in song form, and then I heard Amber scream at the club, and I'm like, you have to be part of this. And I had that dream where we're superheroes. Let's do this. And she wrote lyrics for a few songs, which I was blown away because it was pretty damn good. And I'm like, wow, you know, and this is her first time to do that. Yeah. So she wrote Atari Punk. She wrote Destroy All Robots. And it was that album was the most fun I ever had making music. Yeah. Because I said zero. I said, I'm giving zero fucks about this. I'm not going to follow any rules. Right. You know, if a song comes in and I say 3 lines and that's it. No chorus, no intro or outro. It just happens. Right. I sampled my wife speaking Japanese at one point for it, and she lived there for a little while when she was a little girl. Oh yeah. But it ended up being 23 tracks for this album, and it's Robot Seppuku Crisis. It is my favorite. The best time I ever had making it out. Is it on Bandcamp? Yes, it is. Okay,
I don't think I have it, but I definitely am going to buy it after this. Because yeah, I mean, that's what you're talking about is like from, I mean, I research creativity, you know, and um, but just from my own even personal experience, it's like when you stop giving a fuck, that's when, you know, actually I can tell you a really interesting story about this was when I was in the military, right? I was in the Air Force. Um, and so when you go to staff sergeant, right, you have to take an exam to get right promoted, and then just, you know, all these scores are assembled, and you know there's a cutoff. Anyway, so I had been given my day and time to take the exam, um, and then I got deployed to. This was going to be, I think this was my deployment to Morocco. It was either Morocco, Niger, or I don't think it was Turkey. One of those. Anyway, so they bumped up my test date and said, okay, your test is tomorrow. I'm like, I had this whole study plan, right? Like I was going to study, you know, all these you know, because you're tested on military knowledge and then on your job knowledge. And I was a cook. um, but what it turned, and so I went in there. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm definitely not getting promoted this year. So I went in there and just like, I'm just going to go with my first answer, whatever comes to my mind. Boom, that's done. I'm get out of here, right? And what happens? I blow up the scores. I get promoted. Why? But because yeah, the questions ended up being um, a lot of the questions were just Air Force version of questions from business classes, and I was taking like video courses when I was in the Air Force. So it was like, you know, the same, it was all management stuff, right? And I was like, oh, that's kind of easy. I understand that, you know. I don't remember all the dates of stuff and, you know, who is a general whenever, you know, all that kind of crap. But
history was my worst. History
yeah,
and government classes were
but
my
I did good enough, just barely. So like when you get promoted, they give you what's called a line number, right? So you're ranked from 1 to, you know, 100,000 or whatever, how many people are taking the, you know, trying to go for promotion, and they have a cutoff, right? So after this number, you know, nobody's promoted. Everybody above this number gets promoted. So the cutoff was something like 14,932. I
wow.
was number 14,784 or something like that.
Wow.
I was like, if I remember correctly, I was literally within double digits of the cutoff.
That's a lot
Like
of people.
24. But I mean, I was 24 people away out of 14,000
You may have
from
been
just
23 people
yeah,
away.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'll have, well, I maybe not ask you about it, but 23 has been my family number for a long time, and now I'm seeing everybody else using that, and it's like, hey, you stole our number. Because I was born on the 23rd, my mom was born on the 23rd, my brother was born on my mom's birthday on the 23rd, my grandmother was born on the 23rd. So like 23 is our
See, so
number.
you have a personal connection to it like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Okay.
But anyway,
cool.
So that was just one of those stories like, oh man, it's so close. But the idea is that so I learned from that, you know, when later on as I became a teaching assistant and then a professor, you know, I tell students, go with what your first instinct is. Always trust that. And I did like little mini experiments when I was a teaching assistant. Students would come in and say, okay, well, I did really bad on an exam. And we'd go over each question and answer. And I'd ask them about, you know, why you chose this one over that one. And basically it all came down to 50-50. Like half the time they had the right answer first, and then they changed it to the wrong answer because
Yep.
they second guess themselves. And then half the time they realized what the right answer was and then changed it. So you're better off just going with your first answer.
Yeah, I try not to second guess myself as much
Yeah.
as I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to that, you know.
And so as I learned about creativity, one of the things I learned is that, you know, your brain is always working on things in the background. It's called incubation, right? So, you know, the you know, the eureka moment in the bathtub, in the shower, and all that kind of stuff, right? That's when you're thinking about something else, you're not focused on the problem. Your brain is still working on it in the back, not literally in the back. I have no idea where in the brain it is working, but you know, and then it suddenly springs forward, right? And
This is
so
why I have my phone in the shower with me.
Mhm.
And the first app on my phone is my digital recorder.
Good.
So whenever I'm in there and I come up with like a lyric in my head
Mhm.
or like even a bass line in my
Yeah.
head, I'm like, oh shit, I go and grab my phone, hit record and go and hum it or, you
Yeah.
know, sing it, or even just tap out the beat, you know,
Yeah.
and it comes out and it's like, and then I go back in the studio and it's that like moment's gone, but at least it's there and it might hit me again next, you know, when I sit down in front of the computer to
Yeah.
record, I might be able to pull from that and use that. And it's worked several times. A lot of
Mhm.
songs. One song I actually just recorded in the shower while I was in there, recorded the whole vocal part and just did an ambient layer of music over it, and just went with that for one of my other projects. That another project, Crumbling Decay,
Okay.
is like my test department ish experimental tribal kind of thing that I do.
That
And
sounds
then
familiar. I think I might have that.
I released what did I release? I released The Children of the Stones during the pandemic.
Hmm.
And it was based on an old show. Every time I get a new instrument too, that's another thing. Whenever I get a new musical instrument, it inspires me to write a whole album using that instrument.
Oh yeah.
And so I had just gotten this thing called the pipe just before the pandemic, and it's by Soma Laboratory, and it's like a wind instrument, but it's not. It's like it's like an effects unit, but it's not, and it's like a microphone, but it's not. It has like a microphone with a quarter-inch jack on one end.
Yeah.
And right here would be like a big microphone sticking out. So just like right there.
Yeah.
And plug it into the back of it, and you hum into it, or sing into it, or spit into it, pop into it, beatbox into it, and it has all these effects that you know can affect it. And it also has like a synth kind of sound that you can affect it with, and depending on where you have your hand on the device, it has two buttons. Depending on what you're doing there, and with all the knobs on the side, you can. I mean, I made music with it, and you can make it's very musical. It's very outside of the box.
Yeah.
You know, because you're like having to hum the tune you want to hear, and it makes it so much easier than trying to figure out how to play it on a keyboard. You know, and it's so much
what's
easier.
coming to my mind is a kazoo, but electronic.
Yeah, basically a digital kazoo.
Yeah.
But with like badass choruses and delays and you know, loops. You can be a looper. It's got drum sounds where if you into it, just like kind of like almost beatbox once, you know, and you have both buttons down, it's a kick drum. You let one of those buttons off, it's all of a sudden it's a snare drum. And you can beatbox back and forth just by moving your finger on it. And it's a really cool device. And Soma Laboratories is one of my favorite creators. They made my favorite drum machine that I got, which is the Pulsar 23. It's just amazing. So when I got that, when I got the pipe, I laid down. There's this old TV show that when I was a little kid I watched on Nickelodeon called The Third Eye, and it was like a bunch of different foreign shows that were like kind of like a Twilight Zone for teenagers.
Yeah.
And they showed this one called The Children of the Stones, and it's about these people in Millbury, England, but it's actually Avebury, England, and it's a stone circle surrounds the city, the little town. It's not a city; it's like a village.
Yeah.
And these people move in to like study the stones, and they get caught up in this whole like occult kind of situation where the stones are the actual people of the town, and it's and time is a big circle and all this crazy stuff, you know, and they have rituals where everybody turns to stone, and if somebody breaks the circle, that's when everybody turns to stone, when they break the circle. But every episode had a cool name, and there's only like eight or nine episodes, so I wrote 8 or 9 pieces, however many episodes there are. I wrote that many pieces using the pipe, and then I made music over that. I went back and like designed the music around my performance, and I released that during the pandemic as the Children of the Stones. I named it after that. Each song is named after a different episode.
Oh, cool.
And so that's Crumbling Decay, and Vampire Cathedral is the old noise thing that I turned into like a death rock kind of wannabe death rock band.
Yeah.
The Secret Gods is me playing guitar and bass and singing male and female vocal parts. A lot of instrumental, like post-punk kind of sounds to it too. Yeah. Anti-Vaxxer is my power noise band that gets a lot of reactions.
Yeah.
We get like before the pandemic. Now, mind you, Anti-Vaxxer's been around.
Oh yeah.
Years.
I know.
We played shows in Dallas for a while. Some of them were really subversive shows where we didn't tell people we were showing up. We didn't even tell the club that we were showing up, and we would just show up with barrels, sheet metal, and just start grinding on stuff and like making noise and distorting it, and like with little battery powered amplifiers. Well, I would get emails from people saying, my little brother isn't going to get vaccinated, and you know, he's and I'm like, well, how old is he? Well, he's 16 and he doesn't want to get vaccinated. And I'm like, why is he vaccinated for what? I don't understand. The flu vaccine or what? They were trying to catch me, trying to like dispel, like give out anti-vaxxer kind of material. Like they were trying to like, what is that, catfish me into some like saying some stupid anti-vaxxer shit so they can like yell at me. I'm like, no, dude, I'm totally not an anti-vaxxer. That's the name of my band because I want to shock people, you know? Yeah. This is shock rock, bro. And and they're like, oh, dude, okay, cool, okay, good. I thought you guys were okay. That's cool. And I'm like, all right, cool. But there's a lot of that. I get a lot of that, and then I get tagged a lot in anti-vaxxer propaganda, and I get so mad. I'm like, ooh, this is. And I even wrote on our Facebook page for anti-vaxxer. I even wrote like, hey, you know, we're totally pro-vaccine, but I'm getting a lot of good material from all your tags. And like, but yeah, I can't even think of like songs other than like Self-Lacerating Sclera, but that's like, it's all medical stuff. It was like a anti-healthcare system situation. I have a lot of health issues. My wife has a lot of health issues, and we've been fighting the healthcare system for a long time in this country, and it sucks here. And it just keeps. It seems like it's getting better, and then it gets worse. And anyway, so that was anti-vaxxer was like my most aggressive, angry shit that I ever done to like, and it was against that. And then I made the mistake of getting Solemn Assembly caught up in that, and I wrote like an EP worth of you know, anti healthcare system, you know, music, and I'm like, yeah, see, Solemn Assembly does not need to get into politics because I just get mad. Right. We wrote a song called Quarantine, and then Socialized Suicide, and just a whole bunch of crap. And it was, you know, we sampled Ronald Reagan like talking about the socialist agenda and shit, and we're just like, you know, get sick, quarantine, more pills is what I need, fuck you and your greed, don't quote fucking policy and stuff like that, you know. It's just, but like aggro, like 170 beats per minute screaming shit. And it was nuts. And so we like, I'm like, you know what, we're just gonna like pretend that part of Solemn Assembly didn't happen, because you know, our show for that, we had this big cross, like the Red Cross, just a big square cross like a medical cross, basically, as our backdrop. And it was made of 4, I think 3-foot panels, 5 panels to the middle block. And we projection mapped it with software where each panel would be its own video showing like pills being manufactured, people being tested on, animals being tested on, like all kinds of shit that would like make people think. And like, and then when Reagan came on, he was like the whole thing talking all of a sudden, and then it would go to like just a big red cross and it would flash and then the crosses would all, and it was nuts and it was really cool.
Yeah.
All our stage gear, okay, my wife has a lot of autoimmune diseases. So we used to have refrigerator sized boxes full of used pill bottles that she has to go through. You know, she has to take like 20 pills a day.
Wow.
So we had these boxes of this stuff. So I'm like, oh, hot glue gun. Little poke holes through it. We made my microphone stand was like a tripod microphone stand. All the legs had pill bottles. The mic all the way up had pill bottles. The mic stand all the way up had pill bottles. The keyboard stands had pill bottles all over them. Like our whole stage set was all pill bottles. Yeah. And it was a statement. And I'm like, yeah, we never need to do that again. You know, that was for solemn assembly needs to be exactly what I want it to be, which is not a political thing. I want it to be post-apocalyptic industrial. I want it to be cyberpunk. I want it to be lovey-dovey synth pop shit when I need it to be. I want it to be driving around after midnight music. You know, I want it to be that. And at times, I want it to be about being from outer space and fighting alien robots too, like Robots Epic Crisis, just not as not as graphic as it's still that. When I talk about Robots Epic Crisis, it's one of my favorite things I've ever done in my life. And I when you let go and say, okay, I don't care if my neighbors hear me. We have a house. Our neighbors are way over there and way over there.
Oh, okay.
Usually you can't hear anything that I do in the house. But I'm still worried that somebody's going to hear me shouting at the top of my lungs. You know, I guess it stems from, you know, living in an apartment for a lot of time, you know, growing up, like all of the 90s, I lived in an apartment pretty much. So, you know, after I left home, I was in an apartment all the time. When I was at home, I didn't care because mom and dad were gone all day, so I could record vocals all day. But back then I was singing, not screaming. Yeah. And, but with Robots Epic Crisis, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to read the lyrics until I know it, and I can just shout it by heart. And I would open up the recorder, and I would have it triggered where it could record different tracks every time I recorded. So I could have multiple takes. So I could just leave it going and record everything I do. Ended up being one take for most of them. One take for most of the tracks. And I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. My throat was closed up for like, I think 2 weeks after that. I could barely talk. But I was like, it wasn't that throat screaming crap where, you know, you're really like this, but when you just distort it, it sounds like you're screaming. And a lot of bands like that do that. A lot of bands we both know do that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to fake a scream. I'm not going to fake a scream. I'm going to fucking scream if I'm going to scream. I scream on Robots Epic Crisis, man. If you haven't heard it, please check it out.
Oh, I will. I
will. Some of it's instrumental drum and bass, and then some of it's like gabber core techno without a lot of the techno, just a lot of beats. But then some of it is like industrial noise, Atari Teenage Riot, what do they call it? Digital hardcore. But like electromagnetic pulse punks, I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. Man!
Since you had a story behind it, you know, the alien invasion, all that, did you ever think about doing like a comic or anything to go with it?
When you see the album cover, you'll wonder why we never did. Because it was like, if I could pay Simon Paul to do a comic for me, sorry, I didn't mean to bump on this. It'd probably make a noise.
trying to find something real quick. There we go. All right. So when you're talking about that, it reminds me of a friend of mine has a band called Red Hot Rebellion, which is, you know,
Oh, cool.
if you ever see this, that, you know, that's my koozie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They did a concept album where they are the second best rock and roll band in the universe, sent to Earth because music sucks and they need to teach people how to play good music. And so this is
awesome.
it, right? So they created a whole
hit it at an angle
on it.
Like angle it backwards a little bit.
Yeah.
They have a comic. Oh man.
Yeah.
See, we need a comic
for this
about something crazy.
Because I supported them, so I got myself in it.
So you're in it?
Yeah. Wait, here.
That'd be a great idea for like a what do you call it, like a Kickstarter kind of thing.
Yeah, it was literally Kickstarter. Let me see. So this
kind of angle it backwards, kind of like tilt it towards you.
You know what? Let me just turn off the background.
There you go.
That'll work. Virtual background. Oh, this works right now, but I'll turn the background off anyway.
I can see all the autographs on it.
Yeah. Now you can see the screen. So you can't see the words, but in the comic, I'm saying something about Skinny Puppy. I can't remember what I have to open up. But
who's that? I've never heard of them.
He did a comic.
That's my favorite band.
Vikings versus unicorns. And the unicorns are bad, right? So they're from an alternate dimension, and they're coming to destroy, you know, humanity. And so this is me in that one. Let's see. I'm trying to do it without reflection.
Which one are you? Which one are you?
Well, you can kind of tell.
With the beard, right?
Yeah. And you see what it says?
I can't read it.
Oh, it says, that'll teach you to talk about my skinny puppy like that again.
I'll be right there. Let me grab a copy of that CD so I can show you kind of what it looks like, the artwork for it, because it was pretty impressive.
You know what I'm going to do real quick is I'll go ahead and pause. Okay, so we took a little pause. Joe went to go get something, so let's see what that is.
And I had to pee. All right.
Yeah. You didn't have to tell people that.
Oh, you know me. If you know me, you know me. I'm all about having to go to potty humor is my humor. Okay. So when we did Robot Septica Crisis, and it was it's one of my most favorite things in the world. My friend Amber, beautiful girl, very cool, talented, powerful woman, and she doesn't take shit from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And even me, she won't take shit from me either, so which is really cool. And it was a privilege to work with her on this, and I can't wait till we do more stuff. I can't talk about her enough because she's just that freaking badass. And so we worked on this album, and we actually had real CDs pressed, not CDRs. A lot of places when you spend $15 to get the band CD and it shows up and it's a CDR, I'm always like a little depressed.
Really?
I'm always a little bummed out. But
yeah, I would think so.
I'm bummed out. Yeah, like this is glass mastered, real CD. You know,
mm-hmm.
Terrible artwork that I did for the cover for this part. I did the.
It's yours.
I should have got. I should have got Simon to do this as well. That is my Mac Classic. That's a dead Mac Classic screen, colorized to look rusty. But my computer died sadly, and what I wrote some of my biggest songs on it, and it died after that. Like the final, I have a song called "Falling" by Solemn Assembly that was big everywhere, like minimally, like club play everywhere, a lot of places, not as much as like Not So Web Gods, but you know, and well, actually Not So Web didn't really get a lot of club play. It got a lot of streams, but our song got a lot of streams.
The new club.
And on mp3.com Australia, was like home for like the early 2000s, and we were like on their industrial charts for a number one for a long time.
Wow.
And with a song called Falling, and I wrote it on that Mac Classic. And the Mac Classic, as I'm recording that song, like the final mix of that song, recording it down, the computer started sputtering out and died at the end of it.
Wow.
So there's time slippage issues with the MIDI control. So like some of the beats sound like they might be a little spread apart, and it's because it was on its last leg. Like as soon as that recording was done, never was able to come back on again.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, that's when I had to go get a PC and start using Fruity Loops, and I've been using Performer, and then I got a Mac in 2007 and started using Logic, which is awesome. But so this is the album for Robot Seppuku Crisis. This is the album art. Simon Paul did this, and
cool.
There's a giant robot there that's attacking Earth. There's the butt of a robot, of a monster from Earth right there. You see he's got a little junk in the trunk there.
Yeah.
There's Amber. She's like a space cat, her character. She's like, I want to be a space cat. I'm like, okay. And then there's me. And with my goggles. That was my signature look, was my goggles. Always my goggles. I have a group of friends that their symbol for me is.
Yeah.
If it's too loud in the club and they're trying, where's Joe? Who?
Yeah. Hey, it works.
And so the inside,
you have your own name and sign language.
Yeah. Little pictures of us together. Yeah. I this was somebody's, and I don't know why I got it back. Why did I get it back? I forgot. I think it was lost in their car. Oh. And someone else found it. But just 23 tracks, like just insane. Yeah. And it was super fun to make, and it's on my own label, which is called Zero Clash Audio. Okay. Which is a subsidiary of Tyant Production Group, which is my collective. So it's just all me. Yeah. But I, when you put something in with, you have a logo, and have all this info down here, it looks official. Yeah. Right. It's like store-bought shit. So that was that. Solemn Assembly. This was our first album. Aftershock was our first official album. It had 13 tracks. It told a story about the end of the earth. It was basically that was the bonus track. That's why it's down there at the bottom. Oots for your boom. Have you seen the video for that?
Yeah, you played it a few times, right?
Yeah, we showed it.
That was filmed at the church.
At the old church, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why it's a bonus track, because it has nothing to do with the end of the world. It was just the story behind that song was, there's this French friend of mine who comes to town a lot, and he happened to be in town, and he was there, and it was the end of the night, and I'm like, all right guys, hey, it's been fun, but you guys got to get out of here. And he's like, one more song, and all these people are like, one more song, and he's like, yeah, we need more oons for your boom, oons for your boom. And I'm like, all right, I'll play one more. And I played one more song, and then I went home, and I'm like, oons, oons, oons for your boom, boom, boom. And I'm like, okay, all right. I'm gonna make a song, and it's gonna be the most. I mean, it's silly and crass. Talks about grinding on a zombie whore. Like, I mean, it's just weird, Yeah. And I hope nobody thinks it's a racist song, because I say "Ein, zwei, drei," another German guy, uno, dos, tres, hocico in your face, Ichi Nissan, it's Merzbow with a gun, like. Yeah. I have a Merzbow album that's like, he shot it with a shotgun. So like the album cover is all like pellets from a shotgun blast. Oh wow. And so that's where that came from. The Merzbow with a gun. It's actually
I always love that you mentioned Hocico in there. It's like, because you don't
it's the only Spanish band I knew at the time, off the top of my head. Amdusha in your face just didn't sound right. Yeah. And there's some others, but I couldn't think of them at the time. But Hocico made it in the song, and it's on there. And that video was making fun of Faderhead, because Sammy had posted this thing back then, and Sammy's my friend. Sammy's a friend of mine. he posted a thing online, rules of hanging with Faderhead. If you wanted to hang out with Faderhead, these are the things you have to do. Like, don't talk to him if he's talking to a girl. Don't come up to him, like all this shitty stuff. Like all these people are like, what a douche. And I'm like, it's kind of like common sense usually, when you see, something, don't just run up to him. Hey buddy, hey man, can you sign this for me, while they're talking to a girl? You usually don't do that, right? But like, he kind of did it kind of douchey. And I'm like, man, what a douche, man. What a jerk. Like, why is he doing this shit? What? Wow. And I DJ'd an after party for one of his shows, and he showed up and he came up and said some stuff to me that I took as like, don't tell me how to do my job, dude. Don't ever come up and tell me. So I had it in my head that he was this asshole.
Yeah.
And then we played a show with him and he was totally cool as fuck. And I'm like, okay. And this was after we made the video. So we made this video kind of like, not crucifying him, but just kind of like making fun of him. He shows up, he drives up in my friend's, it's not him, it's my friend Chris, who kind of resembles Faderhead a little bit. Chris drives up in my friend's Charger, parks across the street, walks up to the club, goes into the club. You see him getting a drink, you see him like walking around the club, and then you see the band playing and all my friends dancing, and the club was going off. It was pretty cool to get to film. All that was filmed before the club opened, so like all the crowd, that was all there for the video, and which was pretty intense. And at the end of the video, I told people, okay, come up on stage and destroy all our gear, except for this keyboard right here. But the guy who was drumming for me in the video did not hear me say, don't destroy that keyboard right here. So he trashed my best controller, because it was just the coolest looking controller. And I was like, fuck, dude, you chopped out keys already? Oh, fuck it. And then I gave it to the crowd to just beat the shit out of, it was done for, you know. So, and it was a really good Fatar controller too. And they don't make that one anymore. And I was so sad now, but it was fun because everybody shows up. But so you see him walking through the crowd and he greets, the door guy, Clint's in it, and everybody, all the families there. And you see all these people going into VIP. And of course the cute cyber dread girls get into the VIP area. The guy lets them in, and some dude looking like a bro just walks up and can't get into the VIP area. And it's like, woo. And then some other people get in there that look cool. And I'm sitting in there with girls flocking me, of course, and flanking me, excuse me. And, people dancing, and all my friends that were in the scene are in there. Even some questionable people now that are kind of like on the outs in today's world are in the video, but we were all friends back then, and before a lot of shit came out on a lot of people too. But all of a sudden Faderhead makes it to the VIP section, and the guy's like, sorry, let me ask. And the guy turns to everybody in the VIP area, says, hey, can I let this guy in? And everybody's like, fuck that guy, sticking their middle fingers up the whole like VIP area. And he's like, sorry, man. And then he gets mad and throws his drink on the security guard, and like the security guard wrestles him out of there and walks him out of the club. And that's the end of the video. I mean, everybody's dancing on stage, but it was poking fun. And I told him, I'm like, dude, I thought you were a dick for the shit you wrote when you posted that shit, but when you came and played with us, we just filmed that video, and we played that song right before you went on. That was like our last song, and everybody was singing along to it, and they were all like, ooh, that's they made fun of Faderhead with that, and the song wasn't making fun of Faderhead, just the video. But I sent him the video and he loved it. He thought it was hilarious. He said, but I would never wear that hoodie. There's too much shit on that hoodie. Just a plain black hoodie next time. But Sammy's a good guy. I did a DJ'd a festival for him a few months back, and then maybe over last summer even. I forgot when it was. But yeah, so that was fun. Yeah. My first like release that was ever officially released that I did was a compilation of all the Dallas bands that we had going on. In '94, I started a collective with me and one other band. I was writing already under 4 names. So I had 4 names. I was doing Scarlet Fever with my girlfriend, Solemn Assembly, Vampire Cathedral, and I can't remember the other one. So maybe 3 at the time that I was doing this. And so those 3 bands are on this compilation. But I started this collective, and then there was a band called Never that was my friend James and Eric, and they were the live band for Solemn Assembly sometimes, because I do all the music, so I have to have 5 guys. And James was the only person I trusted on the planet to play live over my music, because he was a really good keyboard player. And he was the guy from Never. He also did a thing called Of One Mind. So when Never broke up, he became Of One Mind, and it was just him. But we started that way. I started working at Guitar Center, and when I started working at the Guitar Center, all of a sudden, all these bands, were coming into the keyboard department, and everybody was just starting out in Dallas at that point. This is like 95, 96. Everybody was just starting to get into the we should really do a band, and because there was a scene already here that was doing it, but they were more on the metal side of things or way synth pop side of things. Nobody was doing like the industrial. Nobody was really doing. I mean, you had bands like Puncture here in Dallas that were doing like heavy metal industrial, but there was a group called Nurse that was like very skinny puppy like.
Yeah.
And there was that was on Ishni Garab Recordings, based in Richardson, Texas, I believe, in Richardson or Plano. And they were like the only people that were doing anything, and they were helping book us places too. So like, so when I started meeting all these people at Guitar Center, we formed a collective. Like, I'm like, hey, I've got this collective of 4 bands right now. 3 of them are me, but 4 bands in this collective. You guys should join up with us, and let's book some shows. Let's do some stuff. Because it's hard in Dallas to book a show if you don't have a live drummer or a guitarist. Everything was rock and roll back then, man. You had like bands like the Toadies and Deep Blue Something, and all these guitar-driven rock bands were like making it big, and nobody that was doing electronic was kind of getting out there. Right. And you couldn't get shows at Trees or Club Clearview. It was really hard. Unless you were opening for like Pigface or something. But even then, Martin Atkins didn't like a lot of bands opening up for his things that were local, unless he knew them and picked them out himself. Yeah. So, which is, I'll get to that story here in just a second. I know you probably want to cut this short because it's already really long. But
no, it's fine.
I'll talk about that. But so the collective grew, and we started booking shows with each other. And it would be like Never with Solemn Assembly at Tunnel Works, which is a record store that had a venue in the back. The record store was a tiny little record store. I found out DJ Red Vamp used to work there, and I bought a lot of my videos and shit from her, and I didn't even know her back then. Right. And this is like 94, 95. Yeah. And so the storefront was cool. Upstairs, Patrick lived there. And then when he wasn't living there, it was a tattoo shop. And at one point it was like a place where you could view the bands playing down below. But because then the back, you go down the hallway by the stairs, and there's a big open space with a little stage in the back, and his PA system was like a home stereo system with these big speakers hanging from the ceiling, but they were like, home speakers, but big. Yeah. And you plug in your mixer to the input on his stereo system, and that's how you got the sound in there. It was a small room, so it worked, right? Right. But you could fit easily 100 people in that room, and I think we had 150 because people were upstairs watching us for our first show there when we played. But we would play there, back in the back at Tunnel Works. So I would book us and Never, and then Puncture called me one day, and Per from Puncture or Moses, I can't remember who, and said, "Hey, Joe, there's a show happening in Fort Worth at the Impala, and it's Spawn Ranch and Mentalo and the Fixer, and they wanted us to open, but man, we're too hard for that show. I think you guys would be more fit to play the show. So can I give him your number to book it?" I'm like, "Please, Yeah. So Solemn Assembly, it was Solemn Assembly, Mentalo and the Fixer, and Spawn Ranch, or Spawn Ranch then Mentalo and the Fixer. Mentalo was headlining that show that night. And so we get there. This is like a cool venue, and we walk in. There's like a stage in the front of the building that's about a foot off the ground. This is in the middle of Fort Worth, and an hour away from Dallas, or 45 minutes away from downtown Dallas, where I lived. And I drive there, and I'm like, holy crap, this place is badass. And I had 5 people in my band that night because I wanted to feel like a big band. So I had one guy who had all this rat gear everywhere. He was controlling the lights and samples. And then there was a guy named, James. James was there, and he was playing keyboards over everything. I had my old Ibanez sampling or MIDI guitar that I was triggering samples with. And then Jason, DJ MTX, was there doing live CS1X synthesizer stuff over it. So I guess there was 4 of us, maybe 4 or 5 of us. And I just remember our lights that night were the best lights we ever had for a show. Yeah. Because Steve, who I did a radio show with, he was my co-host on the radio show. I was his co-host. And then he was in my band. So when he kicked me off the air, I kicked him out of the band. It was that easy. It was like easy decision. You kick me off the show, I'm kicking you out of the band. Right. Sorry, buddy. Yeah. Sorry, buddy. You can still come to all the shows that I'm going to book, because I'm going to book a lot more shows. But we became friends again. We were like 10 years later or whatever. Yeah. We let time go by, and we became friends again after we had a falling out. But anyway, so that show, we had the lights that he made, these lights that were on motors that would go back and forth. It looked like police searchlights, but like a lot of like search spotlights. And it was on the ground, aimed up behind us. So it looked like and it's the biggest stage I ever played on was that stage. It was beautiful. And you look up top, all these porno magazines covered the ceiling. You're like, wow, the crowd can't see it because it's under a ledge, like in front of the stage. Yeah. But it's like, okay, Kelly, all right, weird. But it was kind of fun. The back wall was a garage door that could roll up, so you could load in all the gear back there. All right. That's why my Mac Classic died, by the way. Show we played out there. The garage door. The garage door in the Texas summer heat. Oh. Metal garage door. Stacked our equipment by it. My Mac Classic melted internally. I didn't realize that a lot of things were getting fucked up inside. Yeah. And so I was able to write a couple more songs, including Falling, which was our big one. And then it died because of that, because it melted there. But we did so many cool shows there at that venue. And we played that night to a huge crowd, like 150 people. And I was like, wow, people will probably say there was 50 people there, and it's possible, but it looked like there was 150 people there from my vantage point. We went on, and then Spawn Ranch went on, and they blew a circuit on the circuit board of the venue, and they blamed us from the stage. Ethan blamed us from the stage, and we're like, yeah, that was us. Woo! It was probably Solemn Assembly. Yeah, it was us. And then Mentalo smoked out the whole room with their fog machine. They had the most intense fog machine ever. Yeah. And it filled up. And this room was like a large venue room. Like you could have major concerts there. You could have major, huge concerts there. It was a big open, it looked like an airplane hangar. It was huge.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
With a big stage all along the back wall and a little dressing room area in the back that was nice. But shit, it was filled with smoke and strobe lights. You couldn't see shit. You could barely see them when they came out on stage, but it sounded amazing. My friend Josh was running sound that night. It was so killer. And so Kelly, the owner of the club, came up to me after the show, and he's like, hey, this is a pretty good turnout, man, because I promoted the show for him. He's like, you think you could do this every week? And I'm like, what night are you looking? He's like, well, I'm having trouble having people come out on Wednesdays. And I'm like, Wednesdays in Fort Worth? That's kind of hard, man. Let me see what I could do. And we turned it from like having 5 people a night to having, 100 to 100, 50 to 150 people, sometimes 300, depending on the show. Wow. Everybody from Christian Death and Switchblade Symphony played. Attrition played.
All live shows?
All live shows, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And if there wasn't a band, like a touring band, I would put together something. I would put Vampire Cathedral shows on, and Vampire Cathedral, being that it was originally my noise project, I would invite all my friends to be a part of it, and it was like a pig face of
I was gonna
Dallas.
say it sounds like Pigface.
It was a pig face of Dallas. So we had a band called October Carnival, one of the collective bands. They brought a door that had all these glass panes on it, and they put contact mics on it and plugged it into our mixer through like pedals and stuff. And so I'm like, so what are we gonna do tonight? And nobody knew what we were gonna do. My friend Russell, he's one of my best friends and one of the main guys in the collective. Russ Moore, he took all these shipping tubes of different sizes, from like big 50-gallon barrel sized tubes to like little ones, glued them all together, taped them all together, made his own drum set out of it.
Oh, wow.
And had it mic'd up. The sound guy there mic'd it up. We threw distortion on everything we could find. A bunch of people brought their keyboards up, and we took that big, huge stage in the back and filled it with all this stuff. And I'm like, so what are we going to do tonight? I don't know. How about you shout out a word? I don't know if I came up with the idea of shouting out a word or somebody else came up with it. I think probably somebody else. Shout out a word, and then we improvised that word. I'm like, that's kind of weird. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And we did. And we'd shout out colors, we'd shout out Whataburger, we'd shout out whatever, and as whenever that happened, everything changed and the music would change. And I'm looking over at Bobcat from October Carnival, and he's like, breaking the glass out of the door. And I'm like, oh shit, there's gonna be glass everywhere, man. And I'm like, this is cool. And I'm just looking at everybody in the zone at that moment. And I'm like, this is something here. We've got something here in Dallas.
Yeah.
And so the collective grew and grew and grew. And I got the radio. I ended up taking over for Raccoon Man on Steve's show on the radio, and ended up promoting all our shows on there subversively, because you're not supposed to do that. It's collusion or whatever. I forgot what the word was. I think that's the right word. Conflict of interest.
Yes.
Doing our own promotions on our own show. So I made it sound like the Triumph Collective, by the way, which is our Triumph. It's the International Assembly of Media Pirates, right? Because we were always making CDs for each other and tapes for each other of bootleg stuff. And I sold bootleg videos and stuff at the flea market. So, we were media pirates, and that was our thing. Now, a lot of us in the beginning were all Mexicans. Like everybody that was part of the thing were Hispanic. So we were those industrial, arrogant Mexican people is what it stood for, just within us. I mean, we could say it because we are, that was like our thing. But, and that stuck with some people, and some people really thought that's what it meant. I'm like, no, it's the International Assembly of Media Pirates. We're not really international because it's all just Dallas, but,
right.
But we wanted something
like
big.
KMFDM, right?
Yeah, exactly. Kill a motherfucking Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
But that's not what I mean. But, I love that they made a song with that in it, though. Like they finally owned it, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah. I don't know.
Why not? Maybe
it took them that long to hear that. I doubt it. I think they knew.
I doubt it, yeah.
But this was our compilation CD. So in 97, I said, hey guys, let's put out a CD for my birthday in May of 97. Let's get it done. Let's put a compilation of all the local bands, because we had 22 bands at the time.
Oh wow.
And 22 local Dallas goth industrial underground bands. Some of them were more metal.
Mm-hmm.
One band sounded like Marilyn Manson. The other bands, some of them were just so out there you couldn't really classify them. Gropius is very like old school goth sounding.
Yeah.
And then Species was like this weird industrial techno that hadn't happened yet. They were like, to me, they were one of the first industrial techno bands. And then you had like synth pop.
I was gonna say you had a plethora of bands.
Oh my god! No, I'm looking at it. I'm just like, holy crap! I'm remembering all this stuff. We actually had Bobby Sox from Stickmen with Ray Guns. He did a song with Puncture for the album, and which was their cover of Christian Rat Attack by Stickmen with Ray Guns, old punk act. it was a really cool thing. So I said, okay, so by April 15th, tax day, I need everybody's DAT tapes, 1997. I need everybody's DAT tapes or CDs, or come to the studio and record your song here at my apartment, and we'll mix it here, whatever. And then I'm gonna give it to Russ, and Russ will master it, and then we're gonna put out the CD. So we hired a guy to do the artwork. Talked to Midwest Records to release it on there. They would have distributed it, and I should have taken that offer. But I was young and didn't know what all that entailed. We sold out of we only made 500, and we sold out of them right away.
Yeah,
they're all gone. Every once in a while, I'll find one at like in a dollar bin at some record store somewhere, and I grab it. I'm like, wow. So I can have another copy, just so I can give it to somebody else.
Yeah,
and let it live on. But what we, April 15th, 97 was the date, and then everybody was supposed to turn it in. Nobody had turned in shit. I had my three songs. The one I did with my girlfriend's on there, and then my Vampire Cathedral track and a Solemn Assembly track. And I was so concerned with everybody else turning their shit in, I used the wrong mix of my song. There's no effects on my vocals. I sound like crap. I hate this version that's on this CD, and because I used the wrong one when I gave it to Russ to master, and then but so we were like, okay, so nobody gave me their stuff, and I waited and waited and waited. I waited and waited and waited, and then April 15th of 1998 comes around.
A year later,
and to be fair, I gave them like 4 to 6 months to give me the stuff originally. But any band should have that wanted to get on a compilation should have. Now, being that it was a collective, everybody paid $100 to be on the CD, right? Everybody gave $100 to, and then I had to foot the rest of the bill. Me and my friend had to pay.
Okay.
I think it was like an extra $500. I had to pay more because 3 of my bands are on there, and I'm not making my girlfriend pay for my music, So I paid for 3 bands, plus I covered more of the other stuff. So April 15th, 98, I'm like, I have 5 DATs in my hand. Do you guys still want to do this? Because I'm still booking, and I was booking everybody. We would have meetings at my apartment where the whole collective came over, and I'm like, okay, who can do this? Nobody. Who can do this? Nobody. Who can do this? Nobody. Who can do flyers? Oh, I have Photoshop. Hell yeah, like an early photo. I don't even use Photoshop. It was probably like some other thing, but they had graphic software they could make flyers. So I'm like, okay, we'll use you. And I think they did 1 flyer. And so it just came down to where I learned my lesson working with this collective, that if you want something done, you have to do it yourself. If you want it done right, you have to do it yourself. And you can't rely on other people to be self-motivated. Yeah. And you have like me getting this interview, it took forever to get this from me. You had to keep messaging me, and because I am one of those people now. And I didn't used to be. I used to be the guy that would be like, let's go. And with all the stuff going on around right now, it's difficult for me to get anything.
No, actually, it wasn't, compared to some people, it wasn't that hard. I told you about doing it, but I never formally invited you until only recently.
Oh, I thought yeah. Okay. You never formally.
It was kind of like in the air. Like, I would like to.
It was always like, hey Joe, let's do an interview, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But it was never like, you never sent an email.
We never made that like actual say, okay, let's set it up, until just recently. Right. So yeah, okay. You're good. You got back pretty quick.
So,
and that was because I had like, all of a sudden I had this long list, and I'm like, all right, I can't every day, right? So
Twitch blew up, man. Twitch blew up. Twitch, I thought this blew up. Like when we went from just Never and my bands to like all these guys. I didn't see that coming. Like, I didn't think it would, anything I did. We were on our way to being like Wax Tracks in Chicago.
Yeah.
And that was my goal with this. So when the compilation came to be, I started hearing some rumors. and that because everybody paid me up front, and I had everybody's money. And I don't have it in this room, but I have this, and I probably shouldn't tell people where I keep my money because I don't keep it there anymore, though.
Yeah.
But where I did keep my money was in these floppy disk cases.
Yeah.
And they were multicolored, you know, and you could put the little 3.5 discs in there.
Right.
All my Akai sample discs are in there, and Kurzweil discs are in there. But the green one, because they were like multicolored, right? There was a yellow, green, yellow, blue, red, and green one. The green one, green money. I'm gonna put money in there. So I had everybody's $100 just all wadded up, shoved it in there, packed it in really tight. It was in there. Anybody could have came over and asked to see it, but no. People started making rumors up. My mom, for my birthday, asked me what I wanted. I told her I really want this synthesizer, the Kurzweil K2000. There's one at the store right now that's used. I can buy it for like $500, and she gave me the money to buy it. So I had this keyboard. That was my birthday gift from her. So I had this badass Kurzweil keyboard, played a show with my new Kurzweil keyboard, and Rumor Mill started up.
Yeah.
He spent our money on that synth. That's why the CD's not out. I'm like, no, the CD's not out because I only have your DAT. I don't have everybody else's yet. By my birthday, I made the deadline again, April 15th, 98, again, right? And then the last people gave it to me May, like just after my birthday, actually, like May 23rd. And I'm like, okay, I got the last thing on here. You know, we started making a remix of all the tracks into one big long track. Just not a big long track, but like a mashup of everything. And before mashups, you know. And Russ did that. It was really fucking cool, but we didn't finish it because I wanted to put the thing out. So he's like, just put this on there. We'll just end it where it ends. Okay. And we went to Midwest with the masters. He mastered it, got it back to me. Went to Midwest to go press it, and had the money. And then they're like, "Well, we need the artwork." And I'm like, "Oh shit!" I forgot that we had asked the art guy. His father had died like 6 months before, and I didn't want to be the guy saying, "Hey, listen, I'm sorry, your dad died, and we're not paying you for this, so." Can we have our art now, please? Yeah. You know, I didn't want to be. So we waited up until the end of May to get the artwork from the guy, and then gave him the artwork, and he did a killer job on it. I think we lost him as a friend because of that situation, but he did really good. You like Skinny Puppy, right?
Of course.
So, did you ever get Paradigm Shift?
No.
Which was the compilation that Kevin put out?
No, I didn't.
It see if I see it anywhere where I can grab it easily. No, I don't have it up here. Anyway, basically, I wanted to be Skinny Puppy all my life up until the 2000s. I wanted to be Skinny Puppy, and I wanted to do everything they did. I wanted to be Wax Trax Records. I wanted to do everything they did. And Kevin put out, for Subconscious, they put out Paradigm Shift, and it was a compilation with a bunch of his stuff that he did himself and with other people and all his side projects and all that. And it was pretty rad. I thought it was pretty rad. And I said, I want the cover to kind of look like this, but also kind of look militant, like a military kind of weird kind of like thing. And because the name of it's Tactics of Infiltration.
Yeah. Because
we were infiltrating the Dallas scene. So he came up with this idea. This is taken from a photograph of his grandfather, the artist, from his grandfather in like World War I or II. And then he did all this crazy other overlaying of junk and stuff.
Oh, wow.
On the backside, there's a bunch of like mashed up metal and junk and stuff that he overlaid.
Yeah.
And on the inside, he says that our deal was that he'd do it for free if he gets to make his girlfriend famous. So he put her on the disc and on the side with some stuff over it.
Yeah.
And, did liner notes. We did a huge thank you list to everybody that had helped us out along the way, and everything had information on most of the bands where you can get a hold of them. Which I thought was really cool because I'd seen that in other compilations. I'm like, that way their own fans can find them. If you like a
Right.
certain song on the CD, you can go directly to them. And you know, in '98 we Infiltrate, so that was obviously written in '97 because it's already, this album came out, I believe, June of '98. Finally pressed, 500 copies, glass mastered, actual CDs, not CDRs, and you know, it was the first tie-amp release. It was, and now it's officially the first Zero Clash Audio release too. And in 2018, I contacted every band that was on here and say, hey, it's our 20th anniversary of putting this out.
Yeah.
Let's we're old now. Can I release this for free online so people can download it and check out all the tracks? And everybody signed on it. Like, yeah, do what you want to do with it. If you want to re-release it, whatever, print up more CDs, whatever, go for it. So everybody was on board.
Cool.
And I want to do a documentary about this time period in Dallas.
Oh yeah.
We had 22 bands that were part of the collective, booking each other. We booked ourselves. I did a lot of the booking for them. Puncture actually did a lot of booking too. So they really did their share. I would book bands to open for international artists at other clubs and stuff as well. So any collective band, one night something happened, and I got a really bad reputation for this situation. There was a benefit concert that I did not realize was a benefit concert.
Oh.
And all the collective bands were invited to play this except for Solemn Assembly, you know? And I'm like, dude, I'm the guy that started this shit. And I had no idea that it was for pediatric AIDS. It was a pediatric AIDS network benefit concert. And I was bummed out that my band didn't get invited to play. And I got mad and I said some mean things about the concert, and people thought the worst of me for lashing out against this concert that was a benefit for other people. So that's where I got a lot of hate from.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, you know, a little stabby in the backy a little bit, not inviting me to play that show. But they did a show. So but the write-up about that show in, I think it was Outburn or Industrial Nation, I can't remember, the write-up in one of those like hardcore, like real magazines, you know, tangible magazine, they wrote about all these bands, mostly made up of the Tie-Up Collective. And I'm like, whoa, our name's like, whoa,
yeah,
we made it to like one of the magazines, just mentioned the collective name, you know, oh, the Tie-Up Collective out of Dallas. Whoa, what? Oh my God, you know. And they said it like 2 or 3 times in that about Tie-Up, and I'm like, we're worthy of a Tie-Up Collective name or something like that. I'm like,
cool. Yeah.
I felt bad about talking shit about that show.
Yeah.
I felt bad about talking shit about the show because when I found out it was an AIDS network thing, I was like, oh damn, I was talking shit. And people were like, Joe's a piece of shit. And I'm like, oh
yeah.
Man. That was, you know, that was before I knew to shut up about things.
Yeah. Well, so and I'm going to segue into putting on my professor hat because I can't help it. But you know, I teach a bit about systems thinking, understanding how things are connected, and there are ways to address systemic problems, right? So there's like Daniela Meadows came up with like these 13 or 14 different ways of from, you know, really simple things to, you know, completely changing, you know, paradigms. But in the middle, there's information flows. And I have seen over and over and over again that so many problems and so many solutions all are based on information flow. Right. So when you're talking about the problems you had, right, you were lacking a piece of information. Right. That's all it was. And that is the basis of like every 70s sitcom, right? Or 80s sitcom, right?
Oh,
There's like one piece of information somebody doesn't have, and it's chaos.
If Jack Tripper knew that going to the Eagle that night, so
I bring it up just because it's come up so many times, and obviously,
so is it a communication breakdown?
It's just that things would be different if people had equal access to information, right? So
and
if
this
you
is
want,
pre-internet.
yeah, right. But a lot of times if there's a systemic problem, so not just an issue, but like, systemic problem like racism, right? Kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
A lot of it can be addressed simply by improving information flows. That is getting information to people, right? Because that, if you look at what is the basis of entrepreneurship, is that some people are privy to information that others don't, and they capitalize on it, right? So if we want to solve problems, have better society, you know, not falsely accuse people of stuff, right?
Well,
Information
yeah.
flows are
Well,
essential.
I wasn't asked to be a part of that.
Yeah.
I honestly wasn't asked to be a part of that. So that was,
But that was
kind of
probably
shit.
because of an information flow to them, right? Because they
Yeah.
had that perception that, you were using the money for your, keyboard or whatever. Anyway,
Misinformation. Yeah, definitely.
information is so critical. And so if
I had 3 guys show up to my house one night.
Yeah.
From the collective that wanted to take me out, and they wanted to take me downtown and like, come on, Joe, let's go. And I'm like, I'm not going anywhere with you guys.
Yeah.
You're coming to my house 3 a.m. What the fuck? I had my baseball bat in my hand and everything. And years later, I'm like, I asked one of them, what the fuck was that about? When we all grew up, everybody grew up. This is when we were in our 20s,
Yeah.
We're like young bucks thinking that we were indestructible. And
right.
And I was like, what was that about? They're like, we were going to take you downtown and strip you down to your underwear and duct tape you to a power pole, just to be a dick, because everybody was pissed that you took the money. And I'm like, I didn't steal the fucking money, And I brought that up. The last thing I'll talk about the collective. We tried to restart it again, and everybody now is cool. We're all like adults now, and all the shit that happened back then, all the misinformation was it has been put away. Hatchets buried, friendships still. I mean, shit, it's been over 20 years now, and 23 years, I think. So, with all that information, June, whatever date was that this album came out. We had a meeting at the club I was DJing at early on before the night opened. Had chairs everywhere for everybody. Everybody who pitched in $100 got 20 CDs, so you could double your money back if you sold them for $10, right? And easy. So everybody was happy to get $20. If you wanted more CDs, you could buy them from, you could buy at that price. And anyway, so we had the meeting, and everybody got their CDs, and they were all happy to see the CDs finally, a year and a half later, or a year and a few months later. And I said, okay, so real talk now, before real talk was a thing people said. I'm like, seriously, I've heard rumors that people thought that I stole the money, and I actually took the little green cartridge. This has been sitting next to my synthesizer in my studio. All of you have been to my house and been to my apartment and seen this sitting there. The money was always in this green little cartridge right here. It's always been there. Never. My mom bought me that keyboard, all that shit. I like went into it, and I said, I know these are the rumors. So anybody who has any doubts about that, this is the truth about what happened. And I said, anybody who doesn't want to be a part of the collective anymore, you can go ahead and get up and leave now. And everybody who wants to still be a part of this can stick around, and we'll finish off the meeting. More than half the crowd left.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. I was like, they got their CD and they left. And I was like, and that really broke my heart. It crushed me. Because like you're talking about the flow of information, it was definitely all based on these 2 guys that made it up.
Yep.
They I don't know, I guess seeing the keyboard just made them think that.
Right.
That, because I don't know why they would even say that. Because they knew how hard I'd been working on everything else. And I booked everything for them. Right. And I did everything for them. So I felt like, holy crap, this is the saddest story ever. The coolest thing in Dallas, like we were on our way, man. We were on our way with this release. If we would have gotten that distribution that we opted out of because it was an extra $500. Actually, no, it took money off the total cost, but then they would own half the rights to it. And I didn't want them to get any money. I didn't want Midwest Records to get money off it, but I didn't realize that they would have put us in stores and shit. Which
price times volume.
Yep. Yep.
So let me interrupt it with two quick things. One,
go for it.
So the lesson on information flows is when you think you know something, but you're not 100% sure, ask. It's not that hard.
Well, I knew everything. I knew I mean,
what I'm saying is anybody that thought that maybe
that I took the money,
right? Ask you, right? It's not
I would have showed it to anybody. I would have shown it to him. I would have counted it all out for him. I'm like, here's the $1,500 it's going to cost to put up this album.
Right. So that's one thing, right? Is before anything becomes a problem, just simply ask about it. Ask questions. There's never anything
and I actually
wrong
made that
with asking questions, right?
I actually made that a thing at one of the meetings. I'm like, listen, if any of you have any questions about any of this stuff or anything, let me know directly. Come to me first before you start asking.
And you know how you get people to ask questions?
How?
Silence, like I just did, right? It makes people uncomfortable. This is that professor lesson here, right? If you ask a question to the class, or you ask people to ask a question, and then you just sit there and wait quietly, eventually someone is going to break the silence because they can't stand it. So
wow,
yeah, that's a little trick. If you're trying to get people to say something, silence. It works. Silence.
That's hard for me. Silence is very hard for me.
Yeah. The other thing I want, before I forget, you were talked about doing a documentary. And one of the things that I learned, which was like shortly after I started doing this, I attended a workshop about how you can like create a series online that you can then sell. And at some point, maybe someday I'll do something with all of these, but that takes a lot of work. But one of the things that they said was the most critical thing is to just start recording, right? So if you want to do a documentary, just get your phone out. It doesn't matter on the quality. It could be the crappiest quality. You can fix that in post. That's what they said.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Always fix it in post, right? So it doesn't matter as long as you have the content. So get out there and
I have a lot of footage from back then.
Yeah.
We have a lot of footage.
But you want the current, views on things. And
so
as we know,
let me touch on that.
in this industry, right? The lifespans of people are not as long as, somebody works in office, right?
Trust me.
Right.
That's in my book that I'm trying to write too. So.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, if you want to do this, you want to make that documentary, just start going and doing it. And a trick to get people to speak is ask open-end questions. Like when I asked you, what does music mean to you? Right.
Yeah, that was a hard one.
I didn't ask you, does music mean everything? I asked you, what does it mean to you? Right. And that made you give an answer. So you ask, what does something mean? Why? How? Those kinds of questions are going to get people to say a lot more. And so just do it. I say this all the time. It's like the Nike slogan is perfect for entrepreneurship. Is like, people are always like, oh, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about that. I'm like, just do it. Do it on a small scale. Try it out. See if it works. Right. And that's how music is created, right? You try things out. You see what works. What does, you keep doing it. If it doesn't work, you know what? Nothing lost.
My motto that I used to live by.
Yeah.
And especially when the collective was a thing, was make it happen. Like you could talk all day about doing something. Like what you're saying exactly, it's exactly what you're saying to me.
Right.
you could talk all day about doing something, and you could talk a great game with it. You could talk, you talk it up big time. But unless you physically go and get it done, make it happen. It's even in here. It says, thank you especially to all of you who helped me make it happen, or who helped make it happen in 97. Even though it's 98. In 98 we infiltrate. Make it happen though. Like every time it was on, I had stickers, I had everything that I anytime I talked to anybody, it was like, well, make it happen. Because people would be like, hey, we should do this. And I'm like, well, make it happen. And then come to me with the finished product and I'll promote the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Yo, man, we want to record this. I'm like, well, make it happen. And then come back and then we'll release it, And because this was going to be a full-on label. It was going to be, like I said, I wanted to do the Wax Tracks thing. And I put off doing the first Solemn Assembly CD to do this for over a year. And I didn't work on my Solemn Assembly album because I was working on this and trying to get up the money to pay for the rest of it. That, because out of the 22 bands, there's only 15 bands on here. 3 of them are mine. So like, and then we had to, the price went up and stuff in that time period. So, so we had to cover extra money. And luckily my friend Josh could cover some more of it than what I couldn't pay. So, and again, and with all that, I was like, make it happen. I made it happen. I made it happen. I made it happen, and it's sad because a lot of people were expecting other people to make it happen for them. And that you can't do that.
No,
you can't do that. You can't base your success on the hopefulness that somebody else will make you successful. You
will be disappointed.
Every time.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. Trust me. Luckily this like gave me the taste for it to know what not to do again.
You do it, you'll learn. Right?
Yeah.
The only way you learn.
My faith in everybody.
Do it.
We have a second CD that never was released. That in 2001 I started putting it together, but it was so disorganized, and the collective pretty much was just nothing. But we had another 15 badass songs, and I like that CD better than this one. Okay. But so why don't you make it happen? I can't get a hold of some of the people. I lost the actual files because they were, this is way before what we're doing now. Right. So I have a CD with these songs on it. I know that some of the people on it are dead now. So I can't use those songs. I don't know how to properly go about getting, because I don't know their family. I only knew them as their scene names. Right. Some of them. So and I'm like, I drive around to this CD and I'm like, man, and I get really overwhelmed because it was so good. It was the best compilation CD that I'd ever heard, and it was so ahead of its time in 2001, 2002, in that time period. So it was just amazing. Some of the bands don't even exist anymore. So this is a really naive suggestion, but just put out whatever you can, and then say, hey, if you want to get added to this, right? Because right now it's only digital, right? You sell it on Bandcamp. You can add more to it. And that's the cool thing on Bandcamp is we have this compilation is a free download on there. Everybody can check it out right now, which is really cool. So the second one. With the second one. So the second one was going to be when I was talking about the documentary. We were going to release the second one. What we can release on it. I had to find. I'm driving around and there's this really amazing song. It's called "Disappear," and I'm like, this is so ahead of the times for what it was. I mean, like this song could be played at clubs today. Yeah. And people would think it's I don't know who they would think it is because but it sounds like it's perfect. It's slow, so it would be like downtime, slow time, sexy time, dancing stuff. But I looked up everywhere. I'm like, who the fuck? I can't find it anywhere. And I asked my friends. I'm like, does anybody know who this is? I even like clipped a little bit of the song and put it up on. I'm like, I think that's Jason Galarza. And so I contacted him. I'm like, hey, Galarza, is this you, buddy? And he's like, hey, yeah, that's my song Disappear. And then I find the CD that he gave me with that on there, like a promo CD, the best quality of that song. And so that's definitely going to be on the next comp. So that's all in the works. Like everything is in the works. It's just time. Twitch is such a time killer.
Yeah.
It is. I find myself when I'm not streaming, I'm either way tired from streaming the night before, or I'm having to redo the whole studio to like accommodate what I want to do for the show. I'm spending 6 hours a day. I was spending 6 hours a day. I haven't done it in a couple of weeks, but 6 hours a day ripping the music that I want to play for that night and putting them on flash drives so I can play them on my computer. It's time consuming. It's a lot of time consuming stuff to do this, and especially to do it 4 nights a week.
Right.
And I love it. I don't want to stop doing it, even though I'm going to be back at the church pretty soon. Sunday I'll be back for Memorial Day weekend. I took this weekend, I wasn't there, but I'll be there for Memorial Day weekend. And then starting in July, I think is when I'm full-time back every Sunday, but it's only Sundays.
Right. And you're going to stream it too.
Hopefully I'll be able to stream.
Because I watched your birthday one when you streamed it. And I think you had more hype trains than ever. Like,
I didn't even know.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was like every hour it was like, boom, level 5 done.
Are you serious? I didn't know that because.
Oh yeah, it was your birthday, man.
I couldn't see anything. Well, that was really cool. I appreciate that, everybody who did that. Thank you.
Oh yeah. I'll go back and look. You can look and see. Yeah.
I could see that there was a lot of gifted subs and all that. I couldn't see where the hype trains were. I don't know how to access that part. Even though I've been doing it a year, I'm still learning new things about Twitch and how to get like, I didn't know that I got a Stream Elements email every night after my
stream. Yeah. Yeah. It goes to my
using it for a year.
Yeah. It goes to my like in the other goes to the the promo stuff or whatever you call it. Yeah.
I have an other folder. It goes to my Hotmail and it goes to my other folder.
Yeah.
And that's how old I am. I have Hotmail. But like I don't know if I want to take that laptop because it's my really nice good laptop that everybody that crowdfunded basically through Twitch to get this laptop. I put up a goal. I said, hey, I need a new streaming laptop or some sort of streaming computer because my Mac is my studio Mac and I can't use it for this.
I remember you raising money for it. Yeah.
And they did. They raised all of it and I was able to get a really good MSI is the company. And it's a really good computer, but I don't like taking it to the shitty club. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I don't feel safe traveling with it a lot because I don't want it here in the studio. It's always in the same place.
Yeah.
I don't like the wear and tear on that is kind of much. So I might try to soup up one of my laptops that are busted old laptops and try to stream using that. If I continue streaming on this.
Here's the thing I've been sharing, and this is completely a promo. I don't know if you know DJ Mike Marquez in New York. So I think it was Sark that originally rated him. He does like a Sunday morning, like dawn, like sunrise show, right? So those of us were still up at sunrise on Sunday on the East Coast, right? He's playing anyway, and he does DJ interviews too. So anyway, he was pitching this thing called Mevo, MEVO, which is supposed to be a portable digital streamer. Like everything you can do, like it's a camera, it's everything, plug it all in over Wi-Fi or whatever and stream. So you might look into that. And if you do, follow DJ Mike Marquez. Drop in on one.
Is that what he uses?
I don't know if he uses it, but he's been pitching it because he has, I guess, friends in the company. So he's got the, the Mike Marquez discount, so whatever the
Right.
code is or something like that. I mean, the
Huh.
reviews on it are really good. But it seems like it's designed specifically for people who are streaming on the go. So it might.
Now, does it have, I mean, is it like a laptop
No,
situation?
it's like a giant, like, well, it's not a giant. It's like if you remember like those it's like a camera that's like about that, right? Um from what I can tell, the size maybe, if you remember like the old like 1960s little, 8 millimeter film kind of camera, kind
Oh
of
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
size, right? Something like that.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Vivo.
It might be something that works. I've pitched it in a
I'm,
couple of these interviews. Maybe one of these days I'll get some royalty or something.
stream elements, the way I have my stream elements set up, it really bogs down anything
Mm.
less than what I have going right now. So I'd be concerned that maybe it won't be as solid as this laptop as far as the streaming goes.
Yeah.
Because I have like
I don't know how
at
it
any
works.
given moment,
Yeah.
I have like 14 layers of video going.
Oh wow.
And so
Yeah.
it's like I have all these and websites that are being broadcast through and stuff, different URLs going on.
Right.
So it's kind of it's a lot of layers on my channel. Like some people,
Right.
I love it when I see a channel that's just like the camera, maybe some stuff at the bottom, and maybe their logo.
Right.
And with me, I have like a frame around my thing.
Yeah.
I have all my info,
Yeah.
and then I have
Yeah.
all this other stuff. I've got a lot going on.
Yeah. You don't have to always do that. You could do your live shows different.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what I should do, is just have a live show where
Yeah.
it says "live at the church" at the bottom or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. With my name on it.
It's just
and my PayPal, and then it starts adding everything up.
Yeah. I mean,
but
so I've heard this from a lot of people who are saying that they're going to continue streaming when they go back to DJing at clubs. One, because first and foremost, because of the community.
Right.
Right. It's all the people they've met, around the world. But second,
which is amazing.
Right. It's a secondary revenue stream. Right. And everybody needs some more revenue. Right.
Well, especially for me,
mm-hmm.
I was working at the club 4 to 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
And when they cut Wednesdays and Thursdays off at the club, I was just there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 nights a week. But I was working 3 nights a week at the club, making what I made every night there, consistently,
mm-hmm.
like straight up every week. So I lost out on my total income. That's all I did. I didn't have a day job. I haven't had a day job in 20 years, maybe more. And it's been when I bought a house with it. Working at the club, I bought a house, bought cars, studio. It's all, sure, a lot of it was credit that I'm still paying off on some things, but I learned my lesson with that too.
Yeah.
And then when everything happened, the pandemic happened, and I had to go to Twitch, it was like, okay, at first it was like, man, I was glad that I got a couple of tips here and there, and I'm like, but I'm not making any money. So it was a real struggle in the beginning. And then when I made affiliate, and I was able to actually have subscriptions and bits and cheers and all that stuff, it was like, okay, this adds up. It adds up. And, it's nice. It's really nice. You can have a really, really, really amazing month where it's like, wow, I made more than what I would have made at the club this month. It was hey, great holiday season. We're gonna have Christmas this year. And then some months it's like not so good, and it's like, we're gonna have dinner this month. We're gonna have food on the table this month. And then so I've had ups and downs with it along the way. I think once you get to like 3,000 followers, it's a little easier to have a consistent flow like that. what I love about Twitch is that I've played 5 festivals now, 4 or 5 festivals outside of the country,
Oh
you
wow.
know,
Yeah.
on Twitch, but still like, I think I've done 3 or 4 for our German friends at insert scary name here.
Yeah.
I've done 1 or 2, maybe 3 for Vancouver. You know, I've done some stuff for LA. I thought that was pretty cool. I got to do an AIDS walk for them, which to me was me making up for my horrible past.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I didn't. Man, yeah. If I could take anything back in my life, that'd be one of the main things I would take back, is ever talking shit about that show, because I had no idea. I didn't know until that magazine article came out, and I'm like, oh, this is why everybody hates me right now. Okay, I can see that. But yeah, so getting to do the AIDS walk for LA was really cool. And then so I've done that.
Yeah.
Really, really amazing thing. I have 2 listeners that tune in every week from Argentina. And I have one from Bolivia that she's a DJ and she's amazing. One of my favorite DJs, Sister Payne. And she's from Bolivia.
Yeah.
You know, I've got friends in New Zealand now. You know, people that tune in from Australia and New Zealand. I have people in my Zoom. I do a Zoom every night that I DJ. And I have people from Australia in there, a guy named effing Rooster, that comes in every night to all my shows. And he'll take us walking around. I forgot the name of the town that he's in. Canberra, I think.
Oh,
He's in the capital.
Canterbury.
He's in the capital. Canberra, I think. Canberra. No, it's not Canterbury. I think it's Canberra.
Okay.
It's like Canberra, I think.
Okay.
Something like that. I believe that's where he's at. I could be wrong, but he's in the capital of Australia. And
Australia. And, I thought you said New Zealand.
Oh no, Australia. New Zealand is where is some other people, but this guy's from Australia. Really cool, nice guy. But I have people in my Zoom from Germany, like all over the world, coming in and tuning in, and like, hey, we're tuning in from Chile. We're tuning in from. And I'm like, whoa. We've had people from Japan tune in. We've had people from, I think, we've had definitely Russian people show up, which is pretty badass. I can't think of everywhere, but what's cool about Stream Elements and Twitch is you can see where all your listeners are from. You can see like all the different places that you're like being tuned into. And I'm like,
if you got that plugin or whatever you call it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's really cool. It's on one of your like insights. You can see.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. But so I love Twitch because it's proven to me, because you know, I've always been like, are these people here for me in Dallas, or are they just here and putting up with me? You know, the whole Tie Amp Collective thing falling apart really did its toll on my like self-esteem, and I like had a lot of problems like with believing in myself and all that. I used to be like Daniel Graves, you know, just, you know, full force, all ahead, didn't stop for anybody, you know, I'm doing my thing, and this is how I do it, and I'm going to tell you how I do it, and this is it, you know. And ever since that fell apart, I have not been the same. And I always tell people that, you know, I used to be a big asshole, and I used to be a go-getter, a really, you know, forward person and all this stuff, very extroverted, very I was the guy that would go talk to somebody. If I saw somebody pick up like a magazine at the grocery store that had something in it about anything that I like, I could go up to that person and have a conversation. And they might walk away, but I would be the person that would walk up. And now it's like I don't talk to anybody, you know. I've really that whole experience really kind of, you know, changed my life, not for the better, but like I'm more self-conscious than ever, and putting on a lot of weight also, which I'll talk about for a second, didn't help matters. I used to be a skinny skater kid. I was skinny all my life, little skinny skater kid, and I started putting on weight in my late 20s after a bad breakup, and I could see the pictures, and I'm like, oh shit, yeah, that's exactly when it happened. And then I had a weird surgery that kind of fucked up because somebody picked me up wrong right after my surgery, and I felt shit ripping inside, and so weird shit happened.
Yeah.
Part of my medical crap that I have to deal with, and so I wasn't able to do a lot of things, and I tore my ACL on my leg. Can't exercise with that leg. It's hard as fuck, you know. So everything's like, there's always an excuse, and I hate it. I hate excuses, because I was like, just go do it, you know. I was always make it happen, make it happen, make it happen, and right now I can't, and it's the hardest thing. So dealing with tie-amp falling apart, dealing with the club closing down, it's all been taxing. And my whole saving grace this whole time has been Twitch. Everybody in Zoom, everybody in the Twitch chat, getting to talk with people across the world, and we're all bound by the force, you know, the music. You know, I'm going to use that from now on, because you said it and it kind of makes sense. But, you know, all of us are bonded by this, by the love for the music. And you know, some people, you know, and you could tell the difference, because I was really bummed out, because, you know, we would get, on a good night at the church in Dallas, at a good night, we would have 500-600 people. That was a good night. And that's a lot for a lot of clubs. There's a lot of golf clubs that don't get that at all. Right. Like, and when we had 150 people in the club, it looked empty, and it's like one of our worst nights. You know, you don't ever want to get under 200 or 300 people at the club, because it looks dead. Yeah. But a lot of other clubs around the world are like, oh, you get 100 people there, holy crap! You know, that's amazing. Yeah. You know, that's better than our best night. And I understand that. So it's kind of being spoiled here in Dallas. You know, we kind of were lucky for a long time. Yeah. We were lucky for a long time. We don't. I forgot. I lost my train of thought on that, but we were lucky with all the people. But I was used to the 500 people. I found it. I was used to the 500 people a night, giving me instant gratification, energy. You know, so I'm like, it's almost like being an energy vampire, except I'm not trying to suck the life out of people and make them bored off their ass, Colin. But I'm definitely the kind of person that takes the energy that you give me, and if you're giving me a positive response, I'm going to give it back at you 3 times, you know, like as hard. And that's how energy amplifier. Energy amplifier at the club. I love that. I'm going to get a t-shirt with that. Energy amplifier. You give it to me, I'm going to project it back harder at you, and it's going to be a great night, and it just builds like that. And so I was used to that. I was so used to that. And then I got to Twitch, and I was like, I made all the announcements. I'm going to be DJing on Twitch, you know, being that I can't be at the club. I made it on the club's website, you know, on the actual website, and on their Facebook pages. I'm like, I'm going to be, here's my address, you know, come check me out. And the first few nights I had like 75 people every night come in. And I'm like, hell yeah, this is cool, you know? And I'm looking at, I'm like, I don't know any of these people. And then I'd see, like, out of the 75 people that would be in my room, 10 of them were from Dallas. And the rest were from around the world. And those 10 people from Dallas have stuck with me this whole time. But I'm like, where are those other, you know, 490 people? Why are they not tuned in? Yeah. And I'm thinking, I kind of came to the realization that it might be because they're not in it just for the music. You know? Right. And sure, a lot of the stuff I play, almost all the stuff I play, anybody can have it. Anybody can get it and download it and play it and have it in their car, have it on their iPod, whatever, you know. But, you know, I need that energy to feed off of. So sometimes, and this is the really hard part on myself, I hate the way I look on camera. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to darken everything up. I don't want to be, you know, lit up like I am right now. Because I'm watching myself. The other night I was watching myself, and the whole time I'm like this. And I'm mixing, and I look mad. Like, this is just me resting. This is resting bitch face, I guess, for me, is what, you know, RBF or whatever. And I'm like, I look like I'm falling asleep. God, I look old and saggy and I hated the way I looked on camera. And so I'm like, okay, so conscious effort. to smile. People are like, it's easier to smile than frown. I'm like, frown is just natural. Like,
Yeah.
my lips go down at the end here. That's just me.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
even like trying. Doing this is hard. It is
Yeah.
hard work to smile.
And you do it long enough, it's like it gets like
It
sore.
hurts. Why? But so I'm like, shit. And I'm real. And I started thinking, I'm like, you know, I have to look at all the other streams. You can't. I learned. I forgot the actual wording that someone said the other day, but it's that run your own race.
Mhm.
Don't worry about what other people are doing.
Right.
Don't compare your success to somebody else's success, or your lack of success to somebody else's positive success. Run your own race. Be your best self. Do you the best you can, and don't try to compete.
Right.
You know.
Or
And
if when you do that, now here's the lesson. When you do that, you become New Coke.
No.
Seriously. that should be the lesson for everybody. When you try to base it
when you
on,
try
right?
to do that, yes. Okay.
When you try to
I
do
thought you
that.
meant like when you get to the point where I'm at now.
No,
where I'm like,
no.
I can't
If you
do
try to compete, you become New Coke.
You become New Coke. Yeah. Oh man. See, that put it all in perspective for me. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. You know, I got the green screen because I saw other people with green screens. You know, I got the dancing disco lights, you know, and I'm like, you know what? And when I went and I changed my DJ setup a week or two ago back to where I am now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nobody else was DJing in front of a big old modular synth behind him, an R2 Devo, you know?
Right.
That's my thing.
Right.
I'm going to do my thing.
Exactly.
I don't have to have a green screen.
Right.
You know, I didn't see anybody else with a mannequin either, and that was kind of fun, you know. But this is me, you know. I make music. I'm a musician first, DJ second. Actually, I think I'm just made of music. You know, I think like if you took the music out of me, I would just fall over just a clump of skin. You know, because and even though I'm not the guy that's going out seeking the newest, hottest thing, the newest, most underground thing, I love the music I love, whether it's classic or whether it's new. And, you know, and yeah, sure, I get serviced by some labels, so I get the newest stuff sometimes. And sometimes I listen to it and I'm like, okay, nothing's getting played tonight, you know, because nothing hits me. And I don't play something just for the sake of it being new and somebody to hear it. I play something if it moves me.
Right.
And like the new System Sin was freaking awesome. The new Imperative Reaction was freaking awesome. But like those were the two new things that I heard that really moved me somewhere as far as like that scene goes.
Yeah.
Boot Blacks really moved me. And Black Nail Cabaret moves me. And a lot of bands, they're new to me. They could have been around for 20 years and I'd never heard them. But since Twitch, you know, I got my new music comes from two places. Sark, MP3J_Sark. Sark, he's opened me up to stuff that's like on the outskirts of our scene. You know, it's like on it's on this part of the scene that I never heard of, like Okandi and O Children. Like I'd never heard them before. That's like my new favorite. Right?
I sent him a link to an article about this like young girl band that's just been that did Racist Sexist Boy.
Is that the song?
Yeah, Racist Sexist Boy.
What's the band name? Is it the three young girls playing instruments in a dark room?
No, it's like Jane's or something like that.
That might be it. I don't know.
It's
there's a video he plays of these young girls.
This just happened. And it was in a library, right? So it's these four girls. They're like teens and preteens. They're all Asian American or Hispanic American. Anyway, I sent that to him and somebody else, and so I totally expect him to play it because it's pretty awesome. It's like a 10-year-old girl on drums, and they're doing punk music.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
what I was
Oh
wondering.
yeah. No, this is awesome.
He
So
played like an all female band. I believe it was all female. Uh, uh, Playing like some really moody,
mhm.
like post punk kind of stuff
Yeah.
in a darkened room, and I'm like, they all look 12. That is amazing, and they're really good.
Yeah.
And like I said, I discover new stuff from Sark, and I'm trying to think who the other person is that I discovered new music from. Um,
You discover some from Zlaya, right?
Zlaya, it's
He
a lot of
brings
stuff that
back
I
some.
had in my collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy that like, I have Philadelphia 5 CDs, and I've got Click Click on vinyl,
Yeah.
and a lot of Test Department, of course. But he'll bring up tracks that I hadn't heard from some of these
Right.
bands. Cat Rapes Dog was one of my favorite bands back in the early '90s. I was all about Cat Rapes Dog, even though they have like a really cringy name. It's like,
Yeah.
they are they were really, and they had cringy lyrics too. I mean, they were really a cringe band,
Mhm.
period, for the scene back then. So maybe I shouldn't talk about them, but still, I loved Cat Rapes Dog, and I forgot about them. Like, I have God, Guns, and Gasoline. Like, that's the only CD that I had by them.
Mhm.
And then I hear Zlaya playing like this track. I'm like, what is this? And he's all, oh, it's Cat Rapes
Yeah.
Dog, do your homework. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, Schizophrenia is the song he was playing. And that was like one of their big hits that I didn't remember it being a hit at all. But, they had a best of collection and it was on it. I'm
Mhm.
like, I didn't know they had a best of collection. So he makes you do your homework. He makes you go. I mean, I had to
Yeah.
go and find some really cool shit. I
Yeah.
introduced him to some stuff too,
Yeah.
which made me really,
Cool.
because he found, I told him about Rescue One. Rescue One is this Otto von Ruggins, or I think is his name,
Mm.
out of New York City. Old, like, noisy industrial electronic, like Suicide style
Mm.
stuff. That their record, it's a two-sided album. They've got side A and side B, different songs on side A, side B, but then they double grooved it where side B is on side A as well,
Oh,
and
okay.
side A is on side B as well. So
I remember hearing about that.
depending on where you put the needle,
Anita.
you
Yeah.
don't really know which album you're gonna, what side you're gonna hear.
Yeah.
And I told him all about that. He was like, "Oh, I gotta check it out." He
Yeah.
ordered it. He actually found it and ordered it,
Yeah.
and it's one of my old favorite songs. So anytime I show up, sometimes he'll bust it out for me. But yeah, so Sly is good for that. I can't think of who the other artist, the other DJ is that I get a lot of my new music from. But definitely Sark is like the main guy I get my new stuff that's not typical
Genre. Yeah.
goth
Yeah.
club
Right.
music, even though it fits perfectly, and it's just been overlooked.
Mhm.
And sure, a lot of it is by people of color too. So it's like,
Yeah.
he's all about that, all about, definitely Black Lives Matter
Mhm.
supporter, 100%. I mean, he has that on his screen,
Right.
a lot,
And that's
and
why
which is really awesome.
he was one of my first interviews. It's like third or fourth, somewhere along the way.
I need to watch that. I feel
Yeah.
bad that I haven't gotten a chance to do, but it's just so time consuming doing all this stuff. Like, I can't
Yeah,
imagine what you have to
that
do.
interview was like 2 hours long. This
Oh
one
yeah.
is already over 2 hours.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry. I know you
No,
want
that's
to go.
okay.
Oh, I just talk, and like I
Yeah.
said, the subject about talking about me, I could talk for hours on
Yeah.
about me, and that's, I had an ego problem. A lot of people had said I had an
Mm,
ego problem. I don't think it's a problem if you're proud of what you've done, if you've
mhm.
accomplished stuff, if you've actually
Yeah.
done things you sought out to do. I think you should be able to be proud of that
Yeah.
stuff and talk about it. But
Yeah, who else is gonna do it
you know,
for you?
nobody's going to blow your own. You got to
Yeah.
blow your own horn sometimes. Nobody else
Yeah.
is going to do it for you, at least not for free.
Yeah.
And then if, like, paying a PR person, I can't afford that.
Right.
Uh, I can't afford a manager. I can't afford labels. you know, everybody thinks a label is there to do everything for you, and they're really not. You know, a lot of, especially the smaller labels, you got to pay for your own stuff. You got to pay for your own CDs to be pressed and all that stuff. They distribute it for you, you know, and that's, but distribution is also a big deal.
Right.
And I'm looking at some options to do some distribution. The way I did it was I went through Tommy T. I don't know if you know Tommy T from he did Cyber Rage Radio, and it was on KUNM, which was college radio in Phoenix, Arizona. He was on there for a long time, and for I think 20 years, maybe 30 years, and then they booted him off the air.
Wow.
And that was kind of shitty. But he was like the voice of the industrial scene for a long time in the South, I guess the Southwest. And you know, a lot of people, I tuned in there. That's where I got a lot of my music for the past 10 years, was tuning into his show. And he was on the same time I was doing stuff at the club. So on the way home, I'd tune in and listen, and I'd be sitting there with Shazam in the car next to me, you know, and if it didn't pick it up, because it usually didn't, I would have to wait for him to back announce everything. And then I'd pull out like my recorder and go, hey, check out Aesthetiche, I think is what it's called. That was my favorite thing for a while. Your Bunny Rot, another one of those bands, like all these bands. So I talked to him, and get this shit. When all that stuff about the tie-up was going on around, he got wind about it, and got wind that I had talked shit about that show, and he had talked shit about me at one point in time. because I was a dick. It was a dick move on my part, but you know, and but now we're buds. We're bros. We're brothers. Hey, brother, you know. So like but that's the story with a lot of people that hated me, and that I didn't get along with. We ended up, a lot of my enemies. I try not to have enemies. I want to make up with everybody that I was either addicted to in my life, or that, you know, we crossed paths the wrong way. You know, I'm trying to make up for all that, because life's too short to have enemies, and life's too short to hate people and for people to hate you. So I don't care if you hate me. You can hate me all you want. You know, that's fine. But if there's a way that I can fix things, I'd rather do that. Yeah. You know, because usually there's like
usually about information.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. I was going to say it's usually misinformation. Something was not construed the right way to somebody else. But it all comes back to that. So yeah, I forgot what I was going to talk about. I was going to tell you about something. I forgot where we were.
Yeah.
Where are we? There's another question.
We were talking. We were talking about where you get music inspiration from, where you learn new music. I don't remember how.
There's a guy in Dallas.
Yeah.
That I want to give a shout out to. He actually plays Cold Waves like for the past few years. He goes by Blixaboy.
Okay.
And, he is Wands Dover. And the last show I did before COVID, you know, over a year and 2 months ago, back in March, the week that it hit Dallas, I played a show at a small club for his robot punk night. And I took my modular synth and did a live modular techno set with Wands. Wands does Blixaboy, it does like techno, like dark industrial techno, and it's really good stuff. And I mean, it blows my mind, the stuff he can do. And getting to play that show, he really loved what I was able to do with the modular live. I had some cool techno stuff set up where I could go in and tweak it. I borrowed a really cool sequencer to do some acid house stuff on. So I like had these acid house kind of like 303 sounds going on before I had a 303 clone. So I had that set up with that, and it was really cool. So I got to do this really cool techno set. That was the week that COVID hit, and then when COVID hit that weekend, I called into work. I'm like, hey, listen, guys, do you need me to come in this week? I'm kind of scared about this thing. It'll probably blow over in a few weeks, is what everybody's saying. But is there any way that I could just not come in this weekend? They're like, well, the flights got canceled for our headliners Friday and Saturday. So yeah, go ahead. We'll just get Will to DJ for you Sunday. I'm like, okay, cool. Thank you. That's awesome. I wish that I would have DJ'd that Sunday. It would have been it would have been my goodbye to the club, because then the next week they closed.
Yeah.
And then then we lost the lease. All that stuff happened.
Yeah.
And so Juan's Dover was the last. I played my last show before COVID with him. He introduced me that night to some crazy techno that I'd never heard in my life, and I was blown away. And it was Ike Dusk was one of the artists, and Perk was another artist. And when I heard that, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to get out of the industrial scene and just play techno, because I had a blast with him, and the music was just so intense.
Yeah.
And so I actually brought some of that stuff to the church, and it went off pretty good. I thought everybody would be like, he's playing all this techno, but they were getting into it. I was impressed that they stuck around. And that's the other thing about Twitch versus real life. Going back in, a couple of DJs from Panopticon, they went back and started doing Panopticon again a couple of weeks back. And Lord Byron, one of the DJs there, good friend of mine, he wanted to play all the cool new stuff that they've been playing on Twitch to the club.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody danced. Like,
yeah,
he had to play the tired old, traditional stuff that always got played at the club to get everybody dancing. Right. Nobody would dance to the new stuff. And so it was really disheartening for him to have to go back to the before times and play the old music. And so I understood that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it my way at the club. If nobody dances, I don't care. I just want to play all this stuff. And luckily they all danced to it. Luckily, I mean, it was really cool seeing that happen last week for my birthday, or 2 weeks ago now. That sucks being 48, man.
Oh, you're young.
I know. But yeah, so a big shout out to Juan Stover.
Celebrating 52 at Cold Waves this year.
Oh wow, yeah.
But
that's the other thing.
Last year was my fifth. Not last year. 2019, right? The last time I went to a show was Cold Waves, and that was 5 nights. Because my birthday was on the Monday after Cold Waves, which was 4 days. And that was the most awesome birthday. Because I met Test Department and hung out with them. I met and hung out with Shannon Funches. I got my Chicago tattoo. I won Test Department drumsticks. I won a Cold Waves guitar off a raffle. So it's got the Cold Waves logo.
How did you get all this stuff?
The guitar was raffle. Yeah, the guitar was raffle. And the sticks.
I need to rub your head or some shit.
The sticks was bidding, and it was basically me and this other guy were going back and forth, right? Because it was on paper, and he was waiting and waiting and waiting to the last second, and then he put down his bid, but it wasn't the last second. So I was able to jump in there and put something in really quick before they called it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. I just gotta look for something real fast.
Yeah.
I don't see it, so I guess never mind.
Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, oh, here it is. This is my Test Department drum head.
Yeah, I showed you that, and these are my sticks.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
See, so what we need to do is get those together.
Right.
And
my
on this.
Right. My friend got the a sheet metal from them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
they gave this this was, we opened for them in '96. Yes. So the little short story about that. Kent from Galaxy Club in Dallas called me and said, "Hey Joe, you know the band Test Department?" I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "We need an opening act." I'm like, "Yes." Patrick from Tunnelworks said that you'd be interested in opening for Test Department and Sheep on Drugs. I'm like, "Yes." So he's like, "So here's the deal. Probably not going to be able to pay you because it's a pretty expensive show." I'm like, "That's fine. We don't want money to play. We just want to play. We want to play this show. We want to open for Test Department Sheep on Drugs. Hell yeah." He's like, "Okay, but you got to promote for it. You got to do all the promotions." We're like, on it. So we promoted our asses off. We went everywhere. We made flyers, put them everywhere, and just did it. And my friend owned a store called Moda, and my other friend owned Tunnelworks. So Patrick at Tunnelworks was the one who did the flyers. So we got the flyers from him, had stacks there at his shop, went to Moda, had stacks there at their shop, went to all the record stores in Dallas, anywhere that there was a Test Department section or like where their CDs were in the record stores. Because back then you could find that stuff, vinyl, whatever. We would fucking put flyers in that at Bill's Records in Dallas, legendary Bill's Records. We went in there and found the Test Department section and put flyers in there, and then put more at the door. We flyered all of Dallas for this Test Department show, and I forgot how few people showed up. It wasn't, I mean, it was a big event, probably maybe 300 people, but it could have been a lot bigger. And it might have been less than that. It might have been more than that. But we worked our asses off. So we get there the day of the show, and like I asked Ken, I'm like, "What time's load-in time?" He was like, 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, "Oh, it's fucking early." So we got there, and we start loading in our stuff, and we start putting our shit in a corner in front of the stage while Test Department's putting all their big, huge pieces of this big circular piece of metal and all these wood blocks that are up on chains going up this. And I'm like, and they had like all these CO2 tanks and things that look like bombs and all this shit. And we're like watching, we're like, "Holy crap, this is fucking awesome." And then Sheep on Drugs gets all their stuff on stage, and we're just hanging out. And then Martin Atkins comes out of nowhere, says, whose shit is this?"
Oh yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's ours. It's our stuff. He's like, "Who are you?" We're Solemn Assembly. We're the opening act. "There's no opening act on this tour." And he's like, and I'm like, "What do you mean there's no opening? We promoted this shit." He's like, "There's no opening act. I specifically said there's no opening act." And I went to Kent. I'm like, "Kent, this guy's about to get hit." He's telling me to pack my shit up and get the fuck out of here, basically, without saying it in those words. But he's like, "There's no opening act." I'm like, "We promoted this shit. Everybody that's coming here is coming because we told them about it. This was our show to promote, and we booked. And so Martin talked with Kent alone, and Kent comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, you're gonna have to set up in front of the stage, and he doesn't want you on the stage. He says you guys can play on the floor in front of the stage." And I'm like, "That's fucked up. Tell him he can go fuck himself. We're gonna go up on that stage." And he's like, "Joe," and I'm like, "I don't care. We promoted this shit. It's our show." I was, again, back then, big ego, thinking I could do anything I wanted. And so Sheep on Duncan came down and was like, "What's going on?" And we're like, "Well, Martin doesn't want us on the stage. We're the opening act." He's like, "Oh yeah, there's no opening acts on this tour, but yeah, we could just," and Martin comes over and he's like, "There's no opening acts on this tour, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Look, we promoted the shit out of this show. Everybody that's coming tonight is coming because we promoted it. Okay, I'm the guy who went around and put flyers everywhere, for this event. It's the only advertisement for the show was the shit that I did for it. The Dallas Observer listed it as a show in the big list of things coming to Galaxy Club. Little itty bitty thing: Test Department, Sheep on Drugs, Solemn Assembly. And so Duncan said, "Martin, we can just scoot our stuff a little further away. There's only two." I only had 2 band members at the time, me and this other guy, James. So it's like, it's only 2 of them. We can just scoot our stuff a little bit. We had literally probably the size of where I DJ to stand with our gear. on stage. I had a mic with a vocal processor patched in with backing tracks, and James had a keyboard. We were standing side by side playing a show opening for Test Department Sheep on Drugs.
Yeah.
Martin was like, okay, whatever, yeah, okay, fine. You know, after our show, well, we went and we started changing in the audience because, you know, backstage areas, they were all back there and we didn't want to go mess with them backstage. So we're putting on, we had these test jackets that we wore on stage, these white, like my girlfriend worked for Mobil Oil. So she would get these things whenever they have to change all the chemicals out of their printing machines, because they plotted these big long like blueprints and maps, and you have to change the powdery. It uses powder instead of ink.
Right.
Like, so you have to put these suits on. So she would bring home suits for me, for the band to wear. So me and James would put these suits on, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. And we get backstage, and they announce that we're going on, and we go on and we rock out to this cool crowd of people that had no idea who we were. And even though we're local, all these local people, and we promoted it, nobody knew who Solemn Assembly was. We didn't have any cool songs yet that were known. No club play yet. Tunnel Works had just started playing us in their store. And so this is like 96. So we're like, yeah, you know, we're up there rocking out and go backstage. And Duncan's like, hey, that was great. But let me tell you, next time, if you guys want to be pop stars or superstars or something like that, rock stars, whatever he said, if you want to be stars, you got to change in the dressing room. Don't change out in the audience where everybody sees the transformation. And I'm like, okay, that's good to know. So I kept that in my head. Like, whenever we do a show, don't put on our stage gear out in the crowd. You know, come back stage and do it backstage, even if it's just off to the side of the stage if there's no real backstage. So, you know, little lessons learned from Duncan from Sheep on Drugs.
Yeah.
But then Martin and Gus were super nice from Test Department, and we talked after the show a little bit, and then Martin Atkins came up and said, "Hey, yeah, that was awesome, guys. You know, whatever. Here, have some merch," and he like gave us some shirts. And I'm like, "Oh, cool. Okay. That's cool. All right, cool. Thank you." And then I got the drum head from Test Department, and which was pretty cool. So then fast forward 2 years, 98, Pigface is playing at Club Clearview. And it's Tammy Down from Faster Pussycat. I think Chris Mackey might have been there. I forgot the singer from Skunk and Nancy. She was there. Meg Lee Chin. All these people from Pigface that I love, you know, were there, and Jared from ChemLab, and I didn't realize Martin and Gus from Test Department were on that tour, and so I'm there. I walk in, I say, yeah, I'm on the guest list. This is like my cool guy story for a moment. I said I should be on the guest list. Joe Virus, and I was just trying to act cool in front of my friends. Sure as shit, I was on the guest list for this show. Had no idea, and they handed me a little hang tag thing.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty badass. and I had to act like I knew and expected it, right? But I was like, yeah, this is so cool. And we walk in the door, and I turn the corner, and Jared from ChemLab looks up. He was like signing something for somebody. He looks up and says, Joe! And I'm like, because I just met him a couple of years before at the Angstfest tour with KMFDM, Sister Machine Gun, ChemLab. You know, it was an awesome show. And he says, hey, buddy, hey, are you going to come up and sing with us tonight? And I'm like, and this is all happening with all my friends around. Yeah. And this is before I was DJ Virus from the church or anything. You know, I was just, you know, Joe that hung out with everybody, you know. Yeah. And I'm there, and I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, cool. When do you want me to go up? When do you want me to go up? Just go to the side of the stage, and when we play, when we announce that, when we come back for the encore, come up during the encore. I'm like, okay, all right. So I stood there. I went up there, and all my friends were like, you know, Jared from ChemLab. I'm like, Well, we met one time. I guess he remembers me, and because we talked for a little while after the show.
Yeah.
He actually at the Angstfest tour. I'm on the front row and I'm screaming the words of the song, and he shoves the mic down at my face, and I'm singing "Codeine Blue and You" because that was my favorite song because it was on every compilation I had back then.
Right.
And so I'm singing that, and then we met afterwards and talked for a long time. And I thought that was really cool. But so I go up there and I'm waiting to get my chance to get on stage, and I look out and I see some haters out there, some people from that concert, and the promoters for that concert did not like me, and it was my friend's boyfriend. I think that's part of the reason. And so I see them out there, and I'm like, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. And I jump up on stage, and Meg Lee Chin grabs me on one arm, and the singer from Skunk Anansie grabs me on the other, and we start rocking back and forth singing "Suck." And so I'm up there singing "Suck" with "Take Me Down," but Skunk Anansie and Meg Lee Chin we're doing this, going "Suck, suck, suck," and it was just like fucking amazing. Yeah. And all these people, I could see them like, why is Joe up there? Joe's not cool enough to go up there. Why is Joe up there? And I look back and I see Gus and Martin, and they're like, hey, and it was just like a recognition thing.
Yeah.
And that was pretty damn cool. So that show went off. Then we did a bunch of disco songs, and they handed me the mic, and I'm running around singing disco songs with everybody, and doing like square dancing with Meg Lee Chin, and then at the end of the night, I gave her my sunglasses because she wanted my sunglasses. So if you ever see her with these big ass glasses that are like this big, those were mine. But I'm a sucker, and I gave them to her, and she was super, super sweet. And then after the show, I see Martin and Gus at the bar, and I go over, and they're like, "You're the guy with the test jackets, right? We played with us at that club here." And they're like, "Yeah. Hey, it's good to see you again." And they were like so nice. And like Martin and I ran into him on Facebook, Martin King, and he has Dog Tablet now with Jared from Chem Lab. It's all kind of like a family thing. And we started talking way back then, on early days of Facebook, and have been friends ever since. And he's like a Greyhound rescue guy.
Yeah,
so it's pretty badass.
Yeah.
I missed him when he was with Pigface a couple of times. That I wish I could have been at those shows, like the reunion show.
Yeah.
But I'm in Dallas, you're in Chicago. You got to see that.
Well, I haven't lived in Chicago since 2006. And I moved back there in 96. So I missed a lot in Chicago. Because I left home at 17 to go to college, and then I failed out of college and joined the Air Force and got stationed overseas, and then Wyoming.
Oh wow.
Yeah, rodeo capital of the world. Yeah.
I was gonna say that's like a culture shock.
Yeah, it was. When I got my assignment, they're like, if you like hunting and fishing, you'll love it. I'm like, I don't like either. I'm a vegetarian.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
scratch the take Dave to the barbecue joint.
Fort Collins wasn't that far away. And so they had some clubs there. Anyway, so when I came back, then I was going back to school. I was working in a grocery store. I had no money, so I couldn't really go out and do anything for a long time.
Wow.
So I only had this short window of like the 2000s where I was living on student loans to pay for going out all the time. So
wow.
I missed a lot of stuff. Because I moved out in 87.
Wow.
So from 87 to 96, I was living elsewhere.
Yeah. See, that time period, I moved here to Dallas in the Dallas area in 88. And before that I was in Atlanta, and I was just a little punk skater kid in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Discovering Skinny Puppy, in 86, Nitzer in 80, about the same time, same actual radio show. Loved going to the record bar and talking to the blue-haired guy behind the counter because he knew music that I didn't know about. And how does a 13-year-old kid in Woodstock, Georgia know about Cabaret Voltaire? And I'm like, well, I saw it on a poster in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and I
Right.
figured it was a band because everything else in that was a band.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, so here, oh, it's over there. Damn it! I wish it was like not in a hard reach place.
Every time I've seen that movie, that's the thing I always zoom in on. I was like, I'm jealous. I want
Oh,
that.
Salvation.
No, the microphonies.
Oh, the poster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I asked the guy, look, I have an old people grabber, grab things.
Yeah.
It's the only way I can grab things in my studio because all the Twitch stuff literally takes up the place where my chair used to be in here to roll around and play all my synths and record everything. So I asked the guy, I asked him, what is Cabaret Voltaire? Is it a band? Because I saw this poster. And he's like, how does a 13-year-old kid? I told you that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it was on this poster.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, so they're kind of, I forgot the word he used, but he didn't say industrial. I forgot the word he was using. This is 86, I think, 87. Possibly, I guess 87. He's like, how do you know that? And I told him, and he's like, well, instead of spending on, what other bands do you like? And I'm like, well, I like New Order. He's like, you know New Order? I'm like, yeah, I love New Order. He's like, okay, all right. So if you like New Order, you should check out this soundtrack to this movie called Salvation.
Yeah.
And he's like, because it has Cabaret Voltaire on there, so you can check out what they sound like. And if you don't like it, well, there's New Order on there too. So and you already like them, so it's not a total loss of money. It was like $8 for this tape or something, $7.99 I think. So I got it, and holy crap, Twanky Party was like my favorite track on here, and it was by Cabaret Voltaire. And I believe that's the one. Was that it?
Yeah, I haven't listened to that in so long. I don't remember.
Yep, Twanky Party. Yep.
Huh.
So I got this in like 80. What year was this? 80. It says 1988. So I guess it was 88 when I got the tape. And so I had this from 88 and never could find the movie. And then one day at Forbidden Books and Video in Dallas, I found Salvation, a Beth B film, and I'm like, holy crap, that's this.
Yeah.
And so I rented it because you could rent everything there, from like Faces and Traces of Death. Like Traces of Death is gore. You could rent that stuff, but you could also rent like Nocturnal Emissions and Throbbing Gristle live videos and bootlegs of all these bands that had played in Dallas. And you could rent all this stuff on VHS or back then. And he had books and all kinds of great music. That was where I got all my experimental music collection at, pretty much most of it. Anyway, so I rented it and recorded it. Of course, I'd bootleg everything that I would rent from there, being a media pirate. So I would I copied it and watched it. And the movie was had Exene Cervenka and John Doe, and I was like, it's all right. Oh, it's all right, But the soundtrack was worth every penny. Every penny, man. New Order on here. The tracks are like rare versions of tracks that are released under different names.
Yeah, I've got the song Salvation running through my head right now.
Salvation by The Hood. Oh, so let me tell you about The Hood. Holy crap, The Hood. This was spring break of 86 or 87, and I'm in the back of my dad's truck. So it was 87. In the back of my dad's truck on the way down to Jacksonville, Florida, to go visit our friends that lived down there. And he had a pickup truck with a camper shell, and they had this big silver tube coming from the AC back into the thing so I could have air back there. And so I just remember this big tube coming through the back window going into the cabin or the back area. So, but I had my jam box, and I always knew to tune into like the left of the dial stuff, the 80, 81 to whatever to 90s. You could always find college radio or like community radio. And so when I lived in Georgia, that's the first time I ever heard of Left of the Dial. Because WRAS Atlanta, which is where I heard Skinny Puppy and It's Red for the first time, and I Start Counting and all these other bands, it was album 88, and they were 88.5, I believe, on the dial. And then their motto was left of the dial, right on the music. So I was like, ooh, left of the dial. I like that. And then now left of the dial became like a thing. And there was even a compilation that came out called Left of the Dial. And, all kinds of neat stuff. But yeah, that's where I learned where to listen to music from. So I'm tuning in on the way down there, and I hit record because I wanted to record whatever would come on. And this song came on, and I wasn't able to record the whole song because it was at the end of the tape. And so there was a gap, and I flipped it over, and the song was over by the time the tape got started again. I'm like, oh man, I missed it. And it was this really cool song called Tough Guys Don't Dance. And I never knew the name of the artist. And I heard it and I was like, okay, well, this sucks, because I want to record the whole song. Well, luckily, like the next year, I think 88, I went down there with my friends, and I set it up, and I was recording the show while we were at the hotel, and it caught the whole song from start to finish. Like the guy played the whole song and let it finish out. And I finally got that song recorded. Still didn't know who did it. And he didn't back announce what he played. So I'm like, man. So it took me from 87, 88 up until the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
Where GEMM was like a music thing online you could buy records from. It was an old website where it's kind of like the Discogs of today, but they had all these record shops on there around the world, and you could buy stuff. And I think I posted a portion of the song on MySpace and asked, anybody know who that does this song? Because this song is like a very important song to my childhood, And again, like I said, songs are my friends. Songs were not like just some people that like, what do you listen to? What kind of music do you listen to? And they're like, yo, whatever's on the radio. I'm like, whoa, man. I had these records are my friends. It's hard to like part with anything, and these songs mean something to me, and they're a part of my life now, in my blood. But somebody said that sounds like The Hood. I don't know what The Hood is. Wait a minute, The Hood from the Salvation soundtrack Hood? And I listened to it, I'm like, that's the same voice that does sound. I never put the two together. I had this since 88. Never put that together with that's the same voice, because the music did not sound like that for Salvation until now that I listened to it with new ears. And like, I think it was like 2004, 2005, I found it. Ordered it on Gem, ordered the album that it's on, Holier Than Thou by The Hood. And ordered that, and then found the 12-inch in person at either Bill's or Forever Young Records, and bought that. I'm like, golden record! Like, I got the golden ticket.
Yeah.
And that song is still one of my most favorite songs on the soundtrack of my life. And it's all about like mafia hitmen. Which when I was little, I didn't pay attention. I just knew the words were really cool, and like the way he sang it, the music was badass. I break down songs by what their sounds are. I don't really listen for lyrical content unless it's like a rock and roll song, like a regular rock and roll song. I could sing to you Psychedelic Furs all day long and Flesh for Lulu. But when it's like electronic music, I'm paying more attention to the beat and the music itself than what they're saying a lot of times. And so I had no idea, I'm like, okay, Smacky Mac was a hell of a guy. Take the pliers to your teeth in the blink of an eye,
Right.
Just didn't think anything of it.
Just part of the sound, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. Cool song. It's like, yeah, all right, guy with pliers. And then later on, the album cover is what did it for me, because then there's like this mob guy like smacking the shit out of a guy with the back of a gun. And I'm like, oh, that's all cartoony. But I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. Tough Guys Don't Dance. This is a mob song. This is like a mafioso song. This is kind of cool. It changed it for me. But the music is like so 87, 88, man. Like with the orchestra hit sound that a lot of the Chicago bands used. Like this could have been a Wax Trax release. I mean, it sounded like it could have been a Wax Trax release, and it wasn't. Should have been. and if you take like Idiot by Led Into Gold with all the orchestra hits, kind of that kind of vibe, but it's a really, I'll play that next set that I see you in the room. Remind me if you can to play that track so you because it's one of my favorites, and I have it on vinyl, so I'll play it on my turntable.
Well, you'll remember, because what I typically do is I will air this before one of your shows, and then we raid into your show.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
We just have to decide
like
which one that's going to be, but we can figure that out later. But it is going.
I could even gear my show towards like the subject matter that we talked about. You know, the old days in Dallas and
and
all that. But you have another question.
Oh yes, I have another question. Because it is going on over 3 hours now.
And I don't want to keep you all night.
This is now
I didn't need to go this long.
This is now my longest interview. The longest one before was Daryl Hell. And we had to cut that because it's like, all right, it's getting late. We gotta stop. We'll do part 2 later, which we haven't done yet. But so my ending question for everybody is, what gives you hope?
So I thought about this, and it's hard. That's a hard question to answer. What gives you hope? Because there's a lot of answers to it. A lot of things give me hope. I'm even though my resting jerk face, my lips curved down, I look like I'm mad all the time. I'm a very positive person. I just go through a lot of hell. I go through a lot of things that tear me apart inside and out, and it's hard dealing with a lot of that stuff. So the hope question, I can gear it towards my life, and what gives me hope for my life is the vaccine right now seems to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. I get mad when I see anti-maskers. I'm gonna get a little political for just a second. Hope you don't mind.
Feel free.
I see a lot of anti-maskers out in the world and posting shit, and I will say this guy's name. Maybe I shouldn't say his name on the show. I was at the cemetery saying hi to Mom with Dad, and I let Dad go and say his stuff to her. They were married like 54 years, and when she passed, it was really hard on him, and it's still hard on him to this day, but hard on me too. But I saw all these people. She's buried at the National Cemetery in Dallas, and because Dad was Navy for 21, 22 years, and she's a Navy wife. We moved all over the country because of his career. So even though he retired back in '88 in Georgia, and then we moved here, he's still able. They're both going to be buried with each other there at the National Cemetery, because it's really cool. It's beautiful. It's a really beautiful place, and they have a huge sign when you drive to the front. It says masks and social distancing required. And I still see people without masks walking around there. And I know they think it's because they're freedom. We fought for this freedom to be able to do what we want. And I get so mad at that. And so one day I'm there, and I get so mad because I see this guy like getting near my dad. And I'm like, if that guy goes near my dad, I'm going to go punch this guy and tell him to get the fuck back. Even though we're at a cemetery in front of my mom's grave, the sign says mask up, mask up. So I like, fuck it, I'm going to do a live vlog, because I say a lot of things online because I get really frustrated with politics and really frustrated with things that are happening in this world. I write this mean long diatribe of shit, and I call out people and I say shit, and then I delete it after it's been up for enough people to read it for me to go, okay, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. So I delete it. And then I go live, and so point of reference, a friend of mine called me to say that Kleiner Zymox said some racist shit on stage, and I got really pissed off about that and broke all of my Kleiner Zymox CDs on camera, live, crying because they were one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
And then, you know, finding out that it wasn't exactly what my friend had told me that happened. So I jumped the gun on that. So I deleted that, retracted my comments, but not after Zymox had contacted me already. Actually, Curse Mackey contacted me because he was on tour with them at the time. And he's like, dude, you're making threats to Zymox. They didn't do what they said. Somebody stole some shit off our stage. And he made some comments that shouldn't have been made, but it was about people stealing shit from the stage. It wasn't a racist thing. Your person blew it out of proportion with what happened. So I retracted my comment, deleted that video, cried again a second time because fuck, I just broke all my Kleiner Zymox CDs. But it was so bad because I was like, don't you ever fucking come to Dallas. If I see you in Dallas, I made some threats, you know, on the video to Ronnie from Kleiner Zymox, which should not have done. It was stupid. Misinformation. And I'm the guy that jumps on it. Anybody talks about Mexicans, I'm gonna jump on their shit. You know, I'm Mexican. You know, someone told me a Mexican joke, and I was like, you don't know me, dude. How the fuck are you gonna tell me a Mexican joke when you don't even know me? You're not even my friend. You're some guy at the club, and you're telling me a fucking Mexican joke. You're lucky that there's a wall between us, you know, from the DJ booth. And anyway, so with all that said, and I do apologize to Zymox if any fans are listening. I love Zymox. I still play Zymox. I'm sad that I broke my CDs out of rage, but I think anybody that would have heard what was told to me and believed it would have definitely done the same. Hopefully. Hopefully they would have checked it out first and got the information. I should have called Curse. I forgot that he was on tour with him. I could have just asked him. So Curse calls me and says, "Hey Joe, what the fuck?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "They had to hire security for the Dallas show." Oh. Because or for all the Texas shows, I think, because of my threats and stuff. And I'm like, "Oops." I wasn't. I was mad as hell, and I wasn't going to take it. And anyway. So that's out there. Now, this is why people hate me, because I jump to conclusions. I used to jump to conclusions. I've learned my lesson. And I would get, and that was the week before the pandemic. That was the last show in Dallas, was that Zymox show. And a lot of people went to it. And I was invited to go to the show, and I said, no, thank you. But, sorry for the mess that I created. And I told Kurt, Ronnie was right there with him on the phone. I told him, hey, tell him I'm sorry. Misunderstood the whole thing. It was a misunderstanding between me and my friend. And, so anyway, with that being said, the other subject, I'm there at the cemetery visiting my mom, and I see this guy. And so I'm like, video. And I'm like, that guy over there does not have a mask on. And he's getting within about 10 feet of my dad. If he steps any closer, I'm going to have to jump out and kick his fucking ass for not wearing a mask. It is mandated here. And I'm going off on it. I'm like, it's stupid. All these fucking people thinking that this is a hoax. It's not a fucking hoax. People are dying. 2 of my friends lost their parents recently from this. It's not a fucking hoax. It's for real. And I'm blowing up. I'm getting super, super mad. And then I post the video, and I'm like, I think I'm going to hit this guy. And then he walked away, and I'm like, okay, good for him. He walked away from my dad. He went back and got in his truck and drove off. And sure enough, I'm not going to say what sticker was on his truck because we can all figure it out. Yeah. But guy drives off, and I'm like, okay, cool, good. I don't have to hit anybody today. Fuck you, anti-masker, fucking piece of shit. Clicked off. Well, it's pretty harsh. Within seconds of shutting off, I get this guy who his profile picture on Facebook is the Fine Flug logo, the band Fine Flug, and he's like, "Hey, fuck you and your face panty. Let the government fuck you up the ass." But really went off on me on this shit, and blah blah blah. I forgot the exact words, but it was all that was in there, and other things, and I'm like, I'm not even going to respond to this guy because fighting on the internet's stupid.
Right. Nobody wins.
Nobody wins. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take this guy's name down. And if I see him in public, I'll approach him, because that's how I do things. I do things face to face. It's the only way to do it, And so I'm like, okay, I have his name. I know who he is. And hopefully he died from COVID. So, see, and then I say shit like that, and then I get in trouble. And then people hate me because I say stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's my problem. I don't have a filter. I've lived too long without have a day job.
Yeah.
Where I have to have a filter on. So like, I'm not used to like not saying what I think. But I got mad, Hopefully the guy, he's safe and not dead from COVID.
Oh,
and hopefully he had a change of heart. Huh?
I said, fuck him.
Oh, fuck it. Good. Yeah. Hope he's rotting somewhere. But piece of shit.
Hopefully
anyway,
he ran into
I'm at the
of
cemetery and you're
cocaine.
cussing me out. I'm saying hi to my mom at the cemetery and you're cussing me out here.
Yeah.
Dude, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And but that's that. So the anti-masker thing, I know too many people who've died from it. Too many family members of friends who've died from it. My uncle had it, got over it. He was kind of a healthy guy.
Yeah.
A lot of people I know that are healthier people got it, even though healthy people don't get it. Only if you have diabetes you get it. I have diabetes. I haven't gotten it yet, and I don't want to get it.
Right.
Got the vaccine. Got both vaccines. Filmed the last time the second vaccine and showed that on my Facebook so that people could see. It's easy. It's just a needle going in your arm. It squeezes for a second. I didn't even feel the second shot.
Yeah.
It didn't even feel it. It was just like, oh, done.
Yep.
Cool. And but anyway, so if anybody leaves from this, the thing that gives me hope for the future of this planet is the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And people actually getting the vaccines done. I have Unicode Machine is coming to play with me Thursday night. I don't know when this is going to air, but this, the Thursday that we're filming this right now, he's coming in to DJ with me in my booth. But I'm thinking I'm going to ask him.
Probably in the past.
Yeah, it'll probably be in the past. I think I'm going to ask him to wear a mask in the studio when he's in here, because we'll be that close. I haven't been that close with anybody except at the church, and I was masked at the church.
Right. Yeah.
The other DJ didn't have a mask on. I did pull my mask down to pose for a picture, but I held my breath the whole time. It was kind of funny. I was like, no teeth,
Yeah.
But I'll do that. Things that give me hope for the scene is all the young people getting into it. The thing that scares me about the young people getting into it is all the division that they create with their subgenres. Everything has to have a subgenre now. And this is just my opinion on it.
Yeah.
My viewpoint from where I stand is like, I always hated calling something other than goth or industrial. Like anything that's a subreddit. I almost said subreddit. Anything that's a smaller subgenre, a little division off of that is like, what's the point? Is it electronic and noise, or is it swirly guitars and death rock?
The way I look at it is, I look at it the same way as if we're dealing with a transgender person. Whatever they want to be called, that's what you call it. Same thing with music.
See, now with
whatever,
transgender people is one thing. Music, I don't agree with that.
And if that's what they want to call,
I hate it. I hate it. It's like the one pet peeve I have is when someone is trying to say that this is Witch House, and I'm like, this band's 30 years old. I mean, they've been around for 30 years. They're not Witch House. They were part of the goth scene back in the day. Well, now it would be considered, Witch House or something else. And I'm like, whoa, dude, okay, you are breaking down way too many things. I'm like, is it good? Well, then that's all that matters.
Yeah.
If the music is good, that's all that matters. Why put a label on? I hate labels. I hate it. You're goth.
Well,
even made a
I
post.
agree there. I've a lot of my stream of research over decades has been argue about how the field of entrepreneurship defines the word opportunity. It seems
Oh
a
yeah,
minor thing, but it
I
is
didn't think
like
of that.
it's the core of what entrepreneurship is. And what everybody ends up doing is they use the word, they don't define it, but they use it to mean something different, each person. Right. So it's the
Wow.
opposite issue, right? So it's using the same word to mean different things. And that causes
I
conflict. It's just the opposite. So
it,
I
it,
understand where you're coming from in the, like the reverse,
right.
but
And
it's
that,
the
and that,
same
and
concept, right? Just say what it is that you mean. Don't use a label, right? So if you think
right.
opportunity is changes in the marketplace, then just call it changes in the marketplace. If you think
You know,
opportunity is somebody's idea, then just call it a freaking idea.
like, and there's so many bands that like,
Yeah.
there's so many subgenres now
Yeah.
that are like, all it is like a snare sound changes it from this genre to this genre. A reverb, it changes it from this genre to this genre. And I'm like, just shut up, please. Just stop with all this nonsense. Just, is it good?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Well,
If it's good and you can dance to it, then it's dance music.
right.
It's
Well,
good dance music.
what I would say to you is just focus on the music. Don't worry about what someone calls it.
Exactly.
Don't let
But
it
so
get
many
to you.
people get like, oh, I let everything get to me though.
Don't let it
I
get to
let
you.
everything get to me.
Yeah.
I let everything get
So
to me.
this is
That's
something.
another one of my problems.
Yeah, this is something that I learned in teaching this diversity class. I watched a video of a woman that worked with the Oakland police, and so she's talking anyway. And what they came up with was creating a pause in a traffic stop. And the idea is that before the officer gets out of the car, they have to write down or answer like 3 questions. Do I have a reasonable reason to suspect something wrong? And, and 1 or 2 other things, right? And just by adding that, that created a pause for somebody to think, and it reduced like traffic stops like 60% or something like that.
Wow.
Right. So there's a real
did that stop the traffic stops by them not wanting to have to do that paperwork, or
yeah, I didn't read the study. Okay.
Right. No, I know. I'm just
but the point is, and I've seen this elsewhere, right, is that just take a pause. Right. So like this is what a lot of people do when they have like something they want to say, is they write out the long post. And I was expecting you to say this, was I write this long post and then I delete it before you post.
Oh no, I usually post it then delete it, but
Yeah.
I save copies on my phone so I can look at it again and go, okay, I was really mad about this subject. Here it is.
Just write it, step away, right? Give yourself like a 5-minute timer to, after you finish writing something, you wait 5 minutes before you hit post. Try it. I know.
Lately I haven't been posting anything.
Yeah. Well, there's that too.
And then I try to be funny in this one group that I think you're on it too. Are you in the Sound and Shadows group on Facebook?
I don't think so, but mainly, honestly, I just use groups to post.
Right.
Almost because I don't use Facebook.
Yeah. This is just a user group. A lot of artists are in it. A lot of the bands and a lot of some DJs are in it too. It's a lot of DJs have been joining recently, but a lot of artists that I look up to are in there and saying, and everybody has like their long intro. Hey, this is what I do. Not everybody. Some people just have like a, hey, I'm this guy, and you see me here.
Yeah,
there it is, and that's it. And me, of course, being long-winded with every story, I get that from my dad. I made this big long thing telling like detailed story about my life, where I came from, what I did, and that was cool. So I try to be funny, and I find that I'm more of a dad joke kind of guy than I am a comedian.
Yeah.
So I posted something and people misconstrued what I was saying. and thought I was being either transphobic or like any kind of phobic. And I'm like, whoa, yo, no. I'm one of your strongest allies. That's not what I meant, because I told people that I've never been goth, because I'm not a goth guy. I'm a goth club DJ, not a goth club DJ, which the emphasis is I'm a DJ at a goth club, but I'm not a goth club DJ, or a goth DJ at a club. So, but I was trying to be funny. I was like trying to make a humorous post about it, and it just fell flat on my face. And saying I never dressed goth. I mean, I wore black because it was slimming, like all this stuff. I was like, and I thought it was funny, and people totally misunderstood. And then I said, "Don't even come up to me with that makeup shit if you want to keep your hands." And they were like, "Whoa!" They thought that I meant, that if I would attack somebody who was wearing makeup. And I'm like, "No, don't put makeup on me. It's all about consent. I don't want makeup on my face." That's what I meant by that. So I edited everything and toned it down, and I'm like, this is. And I'm like, I'm just going to delete this. And somebody said, no, don't delete it. You edited it. It's all good. We all understand you now. We love you, Joe. And I'm like, okay. So, but it's still like, I can't say shit anymore.
You got to remember that a large part of communication is nonverbal, and you lose that in written words.
With text.
Yeah.
How many times we get mad when somebody texts us something and we think that they're mad?
You don't get the tone of voice. You don't get the nonverbal cues, right? You don't get the pacing. All that signals, what is really meant. So that's why, you just be to the way it's just.
I'm not an online person. I'm not used to this. I'm not used to this. I'm not used to socializing online. Like I said, I was the guy that went up to people at the grocery store to talk to them when I saw that they had even if it was a heavy metal magazine and they happened to be on the Motley Crue page, I'm like, oh man, Too Fast for Love, bro, Too Fast for Love. It's like whatever, but and now it's like online, I have to watch about how I say things and what I say, and I'm like, I hate it because I'm old, and I didn't grow up like this. And it's been really difficult. So, but I'm learning. I hang out with a really progressive group of people online in a Zoom chat that I'm on every week, and I'm learning to integrate myself digitally, for the past year. So it's been getting better. But I still feel like the awkward asshole that's gonna. I try to watch what I say so I don't offend anybody with anything I say, and I don't ever mean any. The whole cancel culture thing has really gotten me paranoid about everything that I say every day, and I'm like, because I'm not a hater, I'm not a racist, I'm not sexist or homophobic, but I say shit that can be construed as that because I think I'm being funny. And I had to learn my lesson, like I said, when that guy told me that Mexican joke, that you got to watch what you say to people because you never know, and it goes with everything else.
Right.
So I mean, I've cut out any kind of jokes about anything that has to do with any of those isms. Right. I don't say any of those jokes anymore. And I actually find myself getting offended by things other people say these days. And so I'm like, okay. I think I'm becoming a Californian now. Yes. Californian in Texas. So
yeah.
And that's gonna be, a lot of people in California are gonna be mad that I said that, but I'm like, it's not a bad thing, people. I would rather be in California than Texas. Trust me.
Right.
I'd rather be in Chicago than Texas. Trust me.
Now all your Texas people are gonna be mad, but that's okay.
They're already mad at me. They're already mad at me because the honest truth about everything right now, I'm going to be so honest. I wanted to hit 23 years, again, 23. I wanted to hit 23 years at the church. That was my goal, was to DJ 23 years at the church. And when COVID happened, I was at 22 and it was 22 and 2 months. And COVID hit and wiped out my 23rd year. So I didn't get to DJ my 23rd year at the club, at the old club. I wanted to be there at the church. And but
Well, it depends on which way you're counting, though.
well,
If you're counting it where your first year is on your anniversary, right? Like with ages, right? When you're 1 year old, you've been around the whole 1 year already,
yeah.
right? So if
So
that's
I
the
was
way you're
there from
counting it,
January,
so
January of '98.
you were in your 23rd year, so you made it to it.
I was in it. Yeah. I
So
guess
there.
you could say that. Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
you made it.
Yeah. I didn't get to celebrate it. I wanted to throw a big 23 party. And Don, you know, when we first found out that the club sold out from under us,
Mhm.
right? We went to a month-to-month lease on the building, and when COVID hit, you know, that lease was like over $20,000 a month.
Right.
It was close to 20. It was with all the other licensing and fees that we had to pay and taxes, all that stuff. It was about $30,000 for an unopened building that couldn't generate any revenue.
Yeah.
You know, to survive 2 months in a row was amazing to be able to do that. But that dried us up pretty quick. Even though, I mean, I know they made a killing, but there was all this other stuff that had to get paid and done. So when we lost the lease, it sucked because I knew that I wasn't going to get to have my big party at the club. And then when COVID made it really scary, they had one last night at the club where there was no sound system, but everybody could come and hang out and say goodbye and say bye to all the people that work there. And I didn't go to that because it was too risky for me, especially with my wife having all her abilities. So that's the other thing. People be nice to me. My wife is disabled and I am not doing well. So be nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have to add, it's not an excuse to be a jerk though.
So my advice, remember, just pause, work in the pause. There's a lot of value to it.
Sometimes it just feels good to pause.
Yeah. So with that, we now have a record-long interview, or what I'm calling engaging conversations with diverse artists, creators, and entrepreneurs. So I want to thank you, Joe.
Hey, no, thank you, Dave. That was really cool. Thanks for letting me talk a lot about random crap that comes to my mind.
So
I have this thing. I have this thing where it's like I'm watching 50 televisions at once.
Yeah.
In my head, and I'm randomly picking what to talk about, and it like randomly selects for me. I have no control over that. So sometimes I get stuck between channels on the TV and lose my train of thought. And sorry if I offended anybody out there. I wasn't trying.
Yeah, you can explain it all in chat, where it all gets misconstrued anyway. So
I'm gonna be butchered. I forgot that people are gonna watch this live. Forgot this is not just for you and me. Can I go back and start over?
No, but I am going to end right now.